Hello, welcome to this meeting of the Planning and Development Council of the Town of Oakville. We have regrets from Councilors Shi and Lischena, and we are otherwise ready to go as soon as we hear from Council if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest. And Mr. Clerk, I see none. Council, could I have a mover and seconder to adopt the minutes that you've been circulated? Councilor Nanda and Councilor Grant, thank you. Any corrections or amendments to the minutes? I'll put the vote. Is there any objection to the motion? Mr. Clerk, the motion carries. I just want to move to the approval of the Heritage Oakville minutes and the recommendations from April 22nd. Can we have a mover and seconder for that? Councilor McNeese, thank you, and Councilor Longo, thank you. Are there any questions or concerns? And I'll put the vote. Is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being no objection, that's adopted. And we have no consent items. Our first public hearing item is the statutory public meeting for a zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision submitted by Home Development Limited. And I want to explain for those watching at home and the audience here that this is not a decision item. This is an issue collecting item. And the staff will take notes of any comments from the public on this file to answer or deal with in their recommendation report later. And same thing for the comments and questions of council. We're going to start off with a presentation from Home Development. And I believe Erica Lindsay is prepared to do that. Welcome, Ms. Lindsay. We look forward to your presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Lindsay, and I'm a planner with Corsiac Urban Planning. I am here today on behalf of Home Development Limited to present the proposed development municipally described as 145 Burnhamthorpe Road West. The subject lands relevant to this application comprise approximately 11.98 hectares, including 0.41 hectares of natural heritage system lands. The site is vacant, irregularly shaped, and was formerly used for agricultural purposes with no permanent structures or significant vegetation. The lands are located on the north side of Burnhamthorpe Road, west of 6th Line, and are bisected by William Halton Parkway. The proposed draft plan of subdivision consists of 7 blocks, including 1 employment area block intended for a modular housing assembly plant, 2 employment generating and supporting area blocks for general and service employment uses, 1 stormwater management block, 1 natural heritage system block to protect existing features while accommodating a switchgear infrastructure, and 2 open space blocks. A 22-meter road allowance is also proposed. Since the first submission, the block area and configuration have been updated to accommodate the modular assembly factory, internal roads, and parking, reflecting the refined site plan. As shown in the NOESP land use plan, the subject lands are designated employment district and natural heritage system area with an avenue transit corridor identified as Street A on the draft plan. As per the North Oakville Master Plan, the subject lands are designated employment area, stormwater management facility, and natural heritage system area. The subject lands are currently zoned future development. A zoning bylaw amendment is required to facilitate the proposed development. The application proposes to rezone the lands to general employment north of William Halton Parkway and service area employment stormwater management facility, natural heritage system, and site-specific natural heritage system zone south of William Halton Parkway. Here's the preliminary site plan, which shows 14,315 square meter modular assembly plant with outdoor storage, 215 parking spaces, and 2 access points. The site plan submission is forthcoming, subject to draft plan approval. There are a number of sustainability and design measures that can be incorporated into the current concept based on best practices and typical project approaches. Subject to further refinement by the consultant team as the design progresses. At this time, these include high efficiency electric vehicle parking, salt resistance plants, permeable paving, high albedo paving, tree canopy coverage over paved surfaces to reduce urban heat island effect, and in-ground stormwater storage, which can be reused in irrigation. The public information meeting took place on January 29th, 2016, and was attended by 1 member of town staff and 1 counselor. Questions were raised regarding the development timeline. The current plan anticipates the commencement of road and pond construction in September 2026, following draft plan approval, servicing approvals, and site plan approval as well. A foundation permit is expected in November 2026. Construction is anticipated to take approximately 12 months, with the facility potentially becoming operational by spring 2028. Questions were also raised regarding truck traffic and transportation impacts, including expected truck volumes. A traffic impact study has been completed to address these matters in detail. Truck traffic from this facility is expected to be directed solely on William Halton Parkway and not local streets to minimize potential impacts. Discussion also addressed the future land use of adjacent lands near Burnthorpe Road. These lands are currently designated as transitional area and may accommodate residential development in the future. However, no specific development proposal has been advanced at this time. Clarification was also sought regarding the employment lands south of William Halton Parkway. These lands are intended to accommodate lower impact employment uses such as office and commercial uses. In conclusion, the proposed development implements employment lands in accordance with the North Oakville East Secondary Plan. The modular assembly plant represents an acceptable employment use that contributes to the provision of housing through modular construction. And thank you. Any comments and questions can be sent to Robert Thun at robertthun@oakville.ca and the town clerk as well.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Councillor Nanda?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you so much for the presentation and the earlier conversations that we had regarding this. Just to go back to what we had raised about the traffic and the truck traffic and being so close to residential area. We don't have residents up there now. In the future, we will. The site that we had discussed that's just north of Burnthorpe, are you still looking at that as a future development for residential?
At this time, there's no proposal, but it is zoned transitional. So residential can be put there in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the local road that you have over there, I know, again, we were talking about truck traffic because we've had this issue in the past as well. And you're saying that it'll be directed towards William Halton Parkway. And I don't know if this is a question for staff or for yourself, but how do we know that the trucks will not use local roads?
I can defer to Mark Crawford, who's our transportation consultant, to give you more details.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm a little taller than you are, Erica. At this time, we don't have any proposed restrictions on trucks going on, the future extension of Preserve Drive. However, there is the potential to implement signage to restrict trucks on that future road. William Halton Parkway, as an arterial and regional road, is the appropriate truck route, and it provides access east and west to Neagawa and over to Trafalgar, which both provide access to the provincial highways. So there would be little demand for trucks to go down Preserve Drive. Through an update to the traffic impact study, we're also going to propose some generic truck routing principles to ensure that it's understood that the site's going to utilize the regional network first to get as close to the end destination as possible.
Okay. And do we know, just from whatever study you've done so far, how many trucks per day?
It's roughly 20 trucks per day, about 5 to 8 in the peak hour, which is what our study generally focuses on. Again, through an update and as requested by staff, we're going to be looking at the daily truck as well, because it is spread out through the day, but the general traffic on the roads is lower throughout the day than during the AM and PM peak hours.
But we are looking at these being like 18-wheelers?
Absolutely, yeah. We're looking at up to 53-foot trailers.
Okay. And can you just describe a little bit about what the factory, what it's going to be building, the modular?
I'll pass that back to Erica.
I know I'm good. And I'll defer to Thomas and Brian to give details on that.
Thank you, Erica. My name is Brian Martin, and I work for Stellumar, which is a division of Mattamy Homes. In the audience, we also have Thomas Alexander, who's the lead engineer designing the factory. My role is to look at the assessment of the factory costs and look at alternatives. The factory itself is approximately 14,400 square meters. It's on approximately 4.7 hectares of land. The factory itself is going to be producing modular homes, and this is a very new, innovative way to provide affordable homes to Canadians. The factory go live is approximately March of 2028. The factory itself is going to employ approximately 100 to 150 employees, parking stalls up to 200 for future growth. The factory will start at one shift operation. The product inbound will be panels, floors, ceilings, walls that will be produced in a Mississauga factory location, 35,000 square meters. Stellumar has built. Thomas is engineering the plant as we speak. It will be North America's highest automated and most innovative panel factory, again in North America. Tens of millions of dollars worth of automation equipment. Panels will be produced in Mississauga, trucked into this facility located basically at 6 Line and the Parkway, William Halton Parkway, where we will build module homes, 3-dimension from panels, module homes. Module homes then will be outbounded via trailers, as we mentioned, 18-wheelers, yes, and they will go to various job sites in Western GTA. And that was basically Yonge Street through to as far as Kitchener-Waterloo, Brantford, and so on. We're expecting to mirror image this plant in Eastern GTA to service the East in the future. Modules themselves will range from 26 feet, 27 feet long to up to 40 feet long. And as mentioned, approximately 20 modules produced a day.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I think just to staff, just with the amount of traffic and impact we're going to have, I would just want them to take note of future development that's going to be in the area, because this is going to be very high traffic. And if it's employment lands on one side, but having residential so close to that. So like you said, the property just north of Burnhamthorpe for future development, you still don't know what that's going to be, correct? So to staff, I would want to look at what are the options for that, because if this is going to impact future residential, then we want to ensure that it's not going to impact our residents with having that much traffic so close to the area, because even if we say they're not going to use local roads, it's very hard to enforce that because we've already seen it in the past as well. I do want to say thank you and commend you for the climate change initiatives that you would be putting on the site. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams?
Thank you very much. Most of my first question got answered with respect to asking about the description of the operations that are being planned and what's likely to be seen here. I do have a little bit more of a question. You answered the question about when operations are expected to start. One thing I wondered about is because the expectation is that modular components from this site will then go to places throughout the Western GTA, is there any expectation of there being a sunset for this location? Or is it because of the ability to take these modular components anywhere, presumably anywhere from Hamilton all the way to maybe Brampton or something like that? Is there effectively no sunset for this location?
Could you clarify the term sunset?
So meaning that you would stop operations here and move the modular work to another location that's closer to development. You talked about having an East GTA location. Does that mean that someday in the future you might want to have a North GTA location or something else?
Thank you for clarifying. At this time, we don't see that these factory locations are going to be transient, meaning for a period of time that are in proximity to, let's say, a subdivision build. This factory is being designed. The amount of investments, automation, innovation that we're going to be putting into the factory will lend itself to be there for a number of years. We will be looking at alternative sites in proximity to future subdivisions, such as the East GTA, Ottawa, and other jurisdictions as the market demand for modules grow and as Mattamy and the parent company and Stellamar continue to expand. But the plan is for this factory to be there for a period and a duration of term.
Okay, and so economically speaking, you can make deliveries within 100 kilometers of this location and it's still viable? That's kind of the geographic range that you might have?
Absolutely viable. We believe that expansion could also in the future, because we're working with both the Ontario government and federal government, there could be an opportunity where we feed other home types, including Department of Defense or Ontario builds from this location.
Okay, so there's lots of business to be done throughout the Western GTA.
Yes.
And this site could accommodate work for a great geographic distance, basically. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that information. The other question I had for you was, would you be able to walk us through the concept plan that we have in Appendix B that shows the kind of the site operation a little bit? You've got an entry point and an exit point, and I wondered what is expected to be within the storage yard. How are those spaces expected to be used?
So I don't know if we can show the map, that might help. The main entry exit to the factory will be on the corner of William Halton Parkway and the road that is planned to be built. And I believe that we call that Preserve. Road A or Preserve? Okay, Preserve. We believe that should be obviously traffic lit so that we can make egress from the plant, both eastbound and westbound. We also have a egress point for inbound materials further west off of William Halton Parkway. We all understand that William Halton Parkway is a demised road, and that would be a right-hand turn in and a right-hand turn out of the factory. Right-hand turn out is advantageous to us because William Halton Parkway is a regional road, truck traffic, and then we can approach subdivisions into West Oakville, for example. The employee parking is along the front of the building as well as on the furthest east side for additional parking, which would also share the main ingress point at Preserve and William Halton Parkway.
Okay, in your storage yard, what's expected to be there?
Storage yard would be finished modules, completed modules, produced factory, awaiting for final mile delivery.
Okay, so that's your finished product waiting for delivery.
Correct.
Okay. And what about the materials coming in? That's all stored within the assembly plant itself?
It's actually the panels will be manufactured, as we mentioned, in North Mississauga, 35,000 square meter factory. Those panels will be sequenced in just in time to the factory inbound dock doors, which are located on the west side of the factory plan, inbound on that side via truck and trailer, sequenced with no major storage in the yard of those panels.
Okay, so those are going straight in, being put together, and then the finished product is coming out the east doors? or-
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for the information.
Thank you. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My question really relates to the current building climate, the current tariff climate, to what the reality is of when you intend to move forward with this. Because I know the planning horizon starts long before a lot of the things that we're facing right now happen. So can you just let us know what the actual plan is and capacity, and when you're going to be ramping up, or if not, or if you don't know? I mean, what is the actual plans for when this is all going to start to happen with regards to where we're currently at in our housing climate, I guess I would say. Thank you.
I think you're touching a little bit on the company strategy, which I think we could sit here and talk about exhaustively. The climate for innovative, affordable, feature-driven homes is massive. Yes, we are in a economic situation, and yes, home sales are down, and yes, many government bodies are trying to improve the situation, obviously, with GST reductions and development fees and so on. So the climate, governments across Canada, including yourselves, are trying to prime home selling. We believe, as a strategy, that modular home and panel construction is the innovation of the future. Stick production must change for a number of reasons. Factory production adds quality. We can turn that quality into optimization. We can turn optimization in cost savings, and we can drive those cost savings into the features of the home, make them affordable, make them livable, durable, and keep the resale value and the value for homeowners up. In short, create a new revolution in home building, and we believe that that demand is very strong.
So you believe that this is a step forward in terms of providing more affordable housing to not just here, but to the GTHA? Is that one of the reasons underpinning this right now?
Absolutely. It's the main driver, which is affordability. But affordability runs more down the value stream, which is the livability of the home, the features of the home, the resale value of the home, the look and feel of the subdivision, and the features around that subdivision, which are obviously part of Mattamy overall strategy. But part of this strategy is panelization and modularity at a factory level, improve livability, durability, affordability, and features are, design-wise, are unbelievable.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hazlettale.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you very much. We're learning lots today, and the night's young. I have just, first of all, I acknowledge Councillor Nanda's questions and thanks on the climate change. It's appreciated. Some people want us to just ignore it, and it's good to hear that you're not ignoring it. You mentioned one shift a day to start. I have a community that is not in that area, but worries about double shifts, and what does that mean in terms of noise to the neighboring communities. Can you comment on, do you have a sense of will there be sound coming out at 11 o'clock at night? Will there be restrictions on work at a certain hour, because you will ultimately probably have residential homes near you?
We can speak to the facts that today in our ramp-up plan, we're looking at a hybrid 10-hour shift, 4 days a week, which is very amenable in today's workforce, factory workforce. So we're looking at 4 10-hour shift in our first launch period, which would be one shift. And then that ramp-up period in and around the 24-month period, and I'm just throwing a number out there in general sense. So the factory go live in the spring of 2028, and then hence 18 months to 2 years out, we would be taking a look at second shift, which would be the second 10-hour shift, 4 days a week. So 20 hours a day, 4 days a week is right now the theory from our engineering and manufacturing teams. Truck traffic inbound is non-restrictive. Yes, we would be using regional truck routes. That is the way we want to sustain the Mattamy brand and the Stellamar brand. Outbound traffic, because of the size of the modules, is going to be daytime dependent mostly. So outbound shipping of approximately 20 modules a day will be sun up to sun down with the current GTA restrictions that are prevalent across the road restrictions in guidelines today. So there would be inbound truck traffic for inbound materials, panels, and there would be outbound traffic mostly oriented to day shift. The factory itself is contained. It does not contain outdoor materials. There will be no building. There will be no construction on the outside of the building. It's a contained factory.
So you answered my last question on D6 guidelines applicability, so thank you very much for that. I do have one question for staff, and that is, given that there is no commitment to what that transitional residential could be, can the land be zoned at a residential level where it is not ground level type housing, so that they're not, to minimize the impact to them? So in the future, can it be zoned differently?
Through your worship to Councillor Hassel-Thiel, that portion of the land is designated transitional area. It does have the ability for residential, but is not part of this application before council. So we will deal with that in the future.
So I fully understand that, Mr. Tun. What I'm asking is, can we do anything to protect the future residents by changing the zoning to something that may be more compatible with having a factory beside it, albeit an amazing facility? Don't get me wrong, I'm thoroughly impressed. I'm just asking, is there a way to create a more compatible residential community? And has that discussion at least occurred?
Through your worship, that discussion has not occurred because the lands are not part of this application. We do take your thought into consideration for the future. One thing you should keep in mind is the modular assembly plant is not beside residential. It is separated by the stormwater management pond that is being proposed right now. So it is not directly abutting.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, and thank you for your innovation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Very impressed with your presentation, and it's almost like a paradigm shift from putting 2x4s up in a lot, and now we're going to a module, which I think is great, and I think it's very good for the future for affordable housing. And it's the main issue with the feds, the province, and even municipalities about affordable housing and the middle housing that we need to look at for the future. Matter of fact, we're going to be dealing with a couple of those issues tonight in further down our agenda on a CIP. My question is this. Understanding where the site is and so forth, but my concern is that, and it might be through talking with staff and having some more discussion with respect to transportation, the transport. We've got big trucks coming through, and you kind of answered the question before, but the challenge will be is that when you're moving that type of product, your main thoroughfares would be 407, QEW, and I guess my concern is how you bring those big trucks down to QEW from where your location is, and do we have any restraints or issues with that? Has that been discussed with respect to the whole transportation of all the materials coming in and coming out, and what it's going to impact our roadways?
The answer is the appeal to the site is its proximity to the 407 and the 401. And the 401 corridor is important to our business to enter GTA west heading eastbound on the 407 or the 401 into western Mississauga, Brampton. And also the appeal, the same 400 series highway to get west into Milton, Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph. And we also have subdivision plans for Brantford and beyond. So the 401 corridor is key to us. From an expense standpoint, 407 is not great, but from a usability standpoint with truck and trailers, it makes sense today. And actually the payback is it's pretty decent. You pay the fees, but the time that you spend on the highway versus the 401 is not bad. So the 407 corridor is also important to us. Travel to the Queenie is going to be limited because of the proximity to the 401 corridor.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you've specified the 407 and the 401 because it seems to be a natural progression where the location of the factory is to the north. It would be an easier route than trying to get through, coming down Neagawa, coming down 3rd line, 4th line. It would just be it wouldn't be, we have enough traffic issues as it is. So I'm hoping that moving it forward makes more sense, and you've hit it on the nose. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. So just one more clarifying question on when the finished product is moving out, the 20 or so modular homes. Are those going to be on extra large trucks? Is it trucks that are going to have assistance moving through the road? Like they're going to be extra wide going through the road?
So the modular design today is not going to require over-dimensional permitting due to weight. The modules are actually not that heavy. We're shipping quite a bit of air, although they're completed on the inside at an unbelievable level. So weight is not the dimension. Height is not the dimension. We will fall well within the guidelines on height dimensions on the back of a trailer. The challenge is going to be the width.
That's what I meant.
Yes, we will have modules that exceed 8.5 feet, which is the width of a legal truck going down the road. And yes, we will have to gain width-based permits. Approximately half of our materials will be finished goods modules, will be in or around the 12-foot dimension, but we have design criteria that could take it up to 15 feet wide. A 15-foot wide module in the Oakville as well as Halton region requires one professional escort, and we will, not may, we will follow all jurisdictions, whether that's city, town, region, or highway 400 series highways with MTOs regarding escorting and safety precautions.
Okay, so I think a note to staff or maybe a question, how is that going to impact traffic on Burnhamthorpe when we have, because you're saying there's going to be 20 of these a day,
Approximately.
right? And so during the day, so how is that going to impact traffic if you have to move them through Burnhamthorpe?
Through you, Councillor, to Councillor, or Your Worship, to Councillor Nanda, we'll take that under advisement right now and have an answer for the recommendation meeting.
Okay, because I think the other question is going to be when they're coming down William Halton, are you only going to be going towards the 407, or are trucks going to try to go east as well on Burnhamthorpe? So I'm going to want to know if they're going to be going east and west, or are they just going to be going west and going towards 407?
Taken under advisement, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Sun. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. I've heard a lot of words tonight about affordable housing. And I look at the rental market, and CMHC says that affordable rent is for up to $4,070 a month. Then you look at the provincial affordable range, and they're saying it's $1,317 to $2,379. So we got one heck of a lot of still unaffordable units. What is the price point you are going to be selling these units for? I'm sure the financials have all been done at a preliminary stage at least. Do you have a ballpark you could tell us what it would be?
I think we would rather defer and get you those facts. I don't want to speak out of turn. My My responsibility is to take a look at property locations, assess, and help the organization make decisions on factory locations. If you don't mind, I'm going to defer that and get the facts to you.
Okay.
With approximate price points.
Okay, I appreciate that, but do you realize just how many times we've heard the buzzword affordable housing tonight from everybody? It's a big concern that I'm not sure that, and that's what bothers me with everything we're doing right now is at the affordability, but there seems to be a big spread even in the rental market, never mind the sale, building and sale market. So I would, so you'll be able to come back to with that, roughly what it would be with the
Yes.
square footage?
Yes.
So do you have a square footage for what these houses would be? I'm thinking if you're putting them on trailers, like ballpark, can you give me a bit of an idea?
So the first design is a 6-story condominium building. In fact, the first designed build location for that first design is 9th Line and Britannia Road. And it's called the 9. It's a Mattamy subdivision that has been operational for some time. The first design is 6-story condominium buildings, 50 units per condo. We're building 3 condos for a total of 150 units. We are not designing or building homes for speculation. We're building homes for livability. Real people, real features, square footage, wonderful square footage, 3 bedrooms, 1,200 square feet and above, 2 bedrooms in the area of 1,000 square feet or thereabouts. But the affordability is the factory production, optimizing the cost reduction of the site erection, how fast it takes to build. A 6-story condominium of 3 buildings, 50 each, takes 2 years to build and stick construction build today. We're going to do it in 6 months.
I like what I'm hearing. I heard the 1,200. I think that's fantastic. And I think 2-bedroom are around 1,000. What are the 1-bedroom or smaller? What are they?
I'm going to defer. Not only are we going to give you some indications on the pricing, but we're also going to give you some facts on the design, square footage, and we're going to get that to you quickly.
You know, I really appreciate that because up until now, all I hear about is what we're building are little dog cages with the 1-bedroom or whatever whatever it's called, and nobody's buying them. So I think Mattamy's ahead of its time, and I appreciate that. So if you can get back to us with that, I'd really appreciate it. And we all should be pushing that. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there any members of the public with questions or concerns to add to the list that staff is building from this? All right, I see none. I'll confine it to table, and I'll look for a mover and seconder for the recommended motion to receive. Councillor O'Meara and Councillor Chisholm, thank you. Any objection? There being none, Mr. Clerk, that's carried. We now turn to our discussion item, the recommendation report for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications at 1493 6th Line, Post Residence, Inc. And I'm going to call on Gabe Charles, the Director of Planning and Development, to provide an introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. And through you to council and to the public, I want to introduce Sarah Harsaleh, who is one of our planners on the East team. She hasn't yet had the pleasure of presenting in front of you, so I thought we'd make an introduction for her. Thank you.
Welcome. We look forward to your debut.
Perfect. Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. Before you this evening is an application for an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by MHBC Consultant on behalf of their client, Post Residence, Inc. The staff report can be found as item 8.1 of tonight's agenda. And it should be noted that a public meeting was held on November 17, 2005 for both applications. And the purpose of tonight's meeting is for council to make a decision on both applications. The subject property is located on the east side of 6th Line and south of Upper Middle Road, and is municipally addressed as 1493 6th Line. and is approximately 0.8 hectares in area. The proposal received is to redesignate and rezone a portion of the subject lands in order to facilitate a 6-story affordable housing development with administrative office and a daycare use. The development will provide a total of 190 affordable rental housing, with 30% will be fully accessible units and 35 units are proposed to be deeply affordable. In addition, 103 parking spaces is being proposed. As noted in the staff report, the proposal will meet the provincial definition of affordable housing, and it will facilitate partnership and funding from Halton Region Housing for the proposed deeply affordable housing units. Further details on partnerships and ownership structure are also outlined in the staff report. The subject lands are designated Natural Heritage System within the Region of Halton Official Plan. And as mentioned in the staff report, the subject site was fully designated as residential area, and it was later inadvertently designated as Halton, designated by the Halton region as part of the Regional Heritage System. And through the conformity exercise, it was designated natural area within Livable Oakville Official Plan. An environmental impact study was prepared to determine the limits of the natural heritage system on the site. Through this work, the approximate NHS boundary, including the natural feature and a 10-meter buffer, was established and agreed to by both the Halton region and town of Oakville. The portion of the site identified as NHS is located at the rear of the subject lands, and it will be protected through an easement that will be secured as part of a future site plan application. The proposal is to redesignate the remaining portion of the lands to high-density residential, with a proposed density of 234 units per site hectare. The site is in a close proximity to commercial use and has convenient access to public transit and active transportation network, and is fully serviced with water and wastewater infrastructure capable of accommodating the proposed development. It is staff opinion that the proposal maintains a general intent of official plan to support the delivery of affordable housing and continue to the grading housing diversity within the town. It also contributes to the overall objectives and emerging policies by expanding housing opportunities for a wider range of income levels. Providing affordable housing helps respond to diverse needs of the community. The proposal seeks to rezone a portion of the subject site to residential high with special provision. The zoning will permit the development subject to limitation in height and appropriate parking rate that will reflect the proposal. And it's staff opinion that the site-specific modification to the RH zone are appropriate to integrate a 6-story mixed-use development. The issues and concerns identified on the slide were raised through the public meeting report and during the meeting by staff, council, and the public. A detailed review of these matters is provided in the staff report on tonight's agenda. In summary, staff are satisfied that the proposal addresses the concerns, including those related to parking, design, and affordability. And a parking justification study has been submitted in support of the 103 proposed parking spaces. This includes 71 for residential and 32 for visitors, which is shared between the daycare and the office, as discussed in further detail in the report. And in order to address the massing, the shadowing, and the impact on the public realm, the proposal has been modified in its sitting and design, as also discussed in the report. To conclude my presentation, staff put forward the following recommendation for council's consideration as shown on the slide. It's staff opinion that the applications should be approved as they are consistent with provincial policy, conforms to regional and livable official plan, and the proposal facilitates council's goals to address housing crisis by providing intensification that is appropriately integrating into and compatible with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, before your questions, I thought in respect of all the delegations that we have registered that we would hear from the public. That may help enrich your questions. And so if there's no objection, Mr. Clerk, would you call the delegations?
Thank you, Mayor. Anna Rossiter.
Welcome, Ms. Rossiter. Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Before I begin, I'd like to share a little bit of my background. I am a journey person sheet metal mechanic, and for over 20 years, I have worked in construction helping to build Oakville. I understand what it means to bring a project from paper into the real world and the responsibility that comes with building something that will last. So when I speak tonight, I am not speaking against development. I'm speaking from experience about what responsible development should look like. I want to begin by saying this clearly. This is not about opposing housing. We all understand that housing is needed. But the question before you tonight is not whether housing is needed. It is whether this specific proposal in this specific location meets the standard of good planning and serves the public interest. And that's where there are some serious concerns. Let's start with what this project actually is. The proposal at 1493 Elm Road is a 6-story mixed-use building with approximately 190 rental units and a daycare. And importantly, it requires both an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. That matters, because projects that truly fit within their context, what we would normally call appropriate infill, do not require that level of change. They fit within existing permissions or come very close to it. This one does not. The need for both an official plan amendment and rezoning is a clear signal that this proposal goes beyond what is currently permitted and envisioned for this site. This is not minor infill. This is significant intensification. And that brings us to compatibility and built form. A 6-story building is not a subtle addition to this neighborhood. It is a substantial shift in scale. This is a predominantly low-rise area, and this proposal introduces a mid-rise building without a clear or appropriate transition. Good planning is not just about adding density. It is about how that density is introduced. Compatible development respects the existing character of a neighborhood. It transitions, it integrates, it fits. This does not. This is not a duplex or a townhouse or even a low-rise building that reflects the surrounding form. It is a mid-rise structure being inserted into a context where that form does not currently exist. And that has impacts impacts on privacy, on shadowing, and on the overall character of the community. Now, I recognize that this site is located along a corridor. And yes, corridors are often identified for intensification. But that does not mean any scale of development is appropriate. Intensification still needs to be measured. It still needs to be context sensitive, and it still needs to respect the surrounding community. In this case, that balance has not been achieved. There are also significant environmental considerations. This proposal involves development within or directly adjacent to a protected natural heritage system. These protections exist for a reason. They are there to preserve ecological function, protect sensitive landscapes, and ensure long-term environmental sustainability. When we start making exceptions, when we begin adjusting boundaries or weakening those protections, we are not just making a decision about one project, we are setting a precedent, and the impacts of those decisions are not easily reversed. Traffic and safety are also very real concerns. Adding approximately 190 units will increase traffic, there is no question about that. And while technical studies may suggest acceptable levels of service, residents experience traffic in real, lived ways. Congestion, delays, safety risks. This site is beside Munn's Public School. That raises serious concerns about pedestrian safety, particularly for children during peak school hours. We have to ask not just whether traffic can function on paper, but whether it is safe and appropriate in reality. And that leads to a broader point about real-world conditions. Planning documents often reflect ideal scenarios, but residents live with what actually happens on the ground. Existing traffic patterns, infrastructure limitations, and day-to-day conditions all matter. Adding this level of density without fully addressing those realities creates pressure that the community will carry. So when we step back, the issue becomes clear. This proposal requires significant policy changes. It introduces a scale of development that is not consistent with the surrounding area. It raises environmental concerns, and it creates real questions around safety and livability. And this is the part I think matters the most. If a project only works after we change the rules, adjust the protections, and stretch compatibility, then it's not the right project for the site. The site is not the problem. The proposal is. And again, this is not about opposing housing. It is about ensuring that development is done well, that it aligns with policy, that it respects the community, and that it stands the test of time. Council has a responsibility to apply that standard. And where there is uncertainty, where there are unresolved concerns, the responsible course is not to move forward as is. It is to pause. It is to require refinement and to ensure that what is ultimately approved truly reflects good planning in the public interest. Because once a decision like this is made, it cannot easily be undone. It will shape this neighborhood for years to come. And I'll leave you with this. Good planning does not ask a community to absorb avoidable impacts. It avoids them in the first place. So I ask you, does this proposal in its current form truly meet that standard? And if there is any doubt, I urge you to act with caution and require better. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Rossiter. Ms. Rossiter. Ms. Rossiter. I have a couple of councilors with their hands up who might like to ask you a question.
Certainly.
Councilor Ilger.
Mayor Burton, my hand is still up from the presentation from staff.
Oh,
It is not, I will take it down just as long as I'm in the order going forward. Thank you.
I started a list and you're the top of it, so don't worry, you're not going to lose your place. Ms. Rossiter, thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, the next delegation.
Thank you, Mayor. Pengfei Tian.
Welcome, Mr. Chen.
Yeah.
Council looks forward to your presentation.
Hello. My name is Pengfei. Near the 146369, the proposal. I'm here to strongly oppose this proposal. Today, I'm not only represent the neighbors nearby, but also dozens of the neighbors who may not speak English well, and also the working class are too busy to attend this meeting on site. First, this land, you see. This land is designated a natural area in the town, the official plan. The proposal tried to resume to high density. I'm not sure it's a residential or whatever building. It's not just the lady mentioned. It's not a minor adjustment. It's a fundamental change in the land use. And also, here you will see the new building and the neighborhood nearby. See the difference in size and height. This 6-story building will overshadow nearby houses, reduce privacy, increase noise, and forever change the environment we choose for our families. Here, we can see the density. We can compare the both of them. For both of them, to about 200 homes. Red rectangle, you will see the area. And the yellow one, the 1493, we can see the huge difference in terms of density. Here, this one is from the traffic report. We will see that. Now you will see the maybe technically the level of the service. Some of the number is over 1, some of the near to 1. 1 means what? Is the bottom right. Is the worst category. It means almost gridlock. Here, this is easy, you will see. This is the picture from the Google Street View. You will see how narrow of the 6 line. Is it a proper place to build this high density building? Okay. Even worse, this building only provides half of the parking spaces that the city requires. City required about 205 at least, but they only provide 103 spaces. So what about another left? They were parking on the street, which will put already crowded road even worse. Here we can see the relationship between the traffic volume and the collision. This relationship is not linear. Actually, it's square. It means double traffic. It means 4 times collision. 3 times traffic means 9 times collision. And from the report, you will see that this building only has 1 access point to the 6 line. It means all residents, office worker, visit, daycare, deliver, all of them will use 1 single entrance. And most important, I want to emphasize this building just besides the Mount Elementary School. This elementary is a very good school. I remember ranking the 2nd in all the public school in the Oakville. And have 500 students from grade 2 to 8. Does anyone ask their opinion? For the parent and teacher, I did. I asked them. They are very concerned. This building not only has 190 units, they also have daycare and office. Morning rush hours will combine all of them together. School, daycare, office, residential community, all happen in the same time, in the same location. It will be a nightmare for traffic. Our neighborhood is quiet, family-oriented, where children play on the driveway, walk to school, and use a sidewalk every day. As I mentioned last time, we experienced heartbreaking tragedy. An 8-year-old girl was struck by a car just nearby. His name is Manatee, my daughter's friends. Remember that this girl was struck on the sidewalk, which should be safe for kids. If something this devastating can happen under current traffic condition, how can we possibly expect hundreds of additional cars come to this narrow street across Mount Elementary School every day? If this building moves forward, many parents, including myself, will no longer feel safe allowing our kids to walk, bike, or even go to school. Safety must come first, or everything else will become meaningless. we are not against development, just as Lady mentioned, but development should in the right place and the right scale, and design with safety first. Just like this picture, city has approved a lot of high density, but you will see near the transit hub, major corridor, no, and most important, not inside a low-rise neighborhood. Okay, yeah, I understand the city council has the voice of the people, just as we have done before. Council has rejected some high-density proposals. For example, the first two, allowing the 4 dwelling unit on the residential property town-wise and permits for 4-story building height within 8 meters of shared and college. But this proposal from the density is 10 times than the rejected proposals. Last slide. Life is really tough for our ordinary people. Everything is expensive. Oil prices, job market is down. Many of our laborers are working long hours, raise family, and do everything we can just to get by. They may not be here today, but they are watching, they care. We are standing together. More and more residents share the same concern in the last few weeks. They asked me to pass the message to the council. Just hope our kids can grow up safely in our neighborhood. We respect as a council to hear our voice. Thank you for your time and listening to our community and for consideration of the future of our children.
Thank you, Mr. Tian. Councillor O'Meara has a question for you, and and a few more. So you have some time in front of us.
Problem.
Here.
Yeah,
Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if staff can take us back to the picture with the kids crossing the street there. Is that possible? That's the one right there. No, yeah. Is that a real picture, sir?
Not a picture, because I tried to take a picture this morning, but I figured out I cannot take it because of privacy. Yes.
So that, would you say that's not an accurate picture?
Yes, not accurate, but the side, I mean the road, everything is a picture.
That's fine. I'm just asking whether that's an accurate picture or not, or whether it's AI. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Yeah. But I watched this one. I observed in the rush hour even worse this one.
Okay. Your next question is from Councillor Hazlitt-Thiel.
Thank you for your delegation. Can you just pull up the image with the building and then the parking in front of it?
Yes, I used the, yes. For the height, a scale, I did not, I just, because, okay.
So if staff could just pull it up, I just want to ask staff, actually not the delegate, a question, just because we're going to hear from a lot of people tonight. No, it's not this one. I want the one where it shows the parking in front of the actual building.
Yes.
No, actually, it's the image with the 6 stories and there's parking in front of it. I think it's 2 more up, possibly.
This one? This one? I mean, so
keep going.
Up. Sorry.
It's gone.
No, this one?
Other way.
Other. Not.
No, it's not it.
No, this one. No, this one.
So my question for staff is there's an image that shows the 6-story building and then the way the parking is and the in and out. Could you just clarify for us if that image is accurate?
This one?
It's the last slide.
Keep going.
That's it. So is this reflect the site plan design, is my question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, in terms of where the parking is locating, the parking is located on the north side of the property, and further away from the school. So the parking would be facing the school. So that would not be the right image.
Okay. So, sir, I just want to, I hear you and I understand
Yeah, yeah.
your concern.
Yeah.
We need to deal with what the exact
Yeah.
plan is, and so I appreciate your
problem. Yeah, because
your
that-
attempt to show us some things, but I needed to get clarity.
all right.
Thanks very much, Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McNeese?
Thank you. Through your worship, fortunately, I have another image I'd like to just fact check here. The first one that the clerk pulled up in the presentation of the building set behind the houses in front. I understand that to be a much, what the delegate has presented is a much different building than what's in the proposal. So if we could just take a look at that, it was one of the first slides.
Yes, not a year. Should be the angle should be the painkiller.
Yeah, I just want the clerk to pull
Yeah,
it up
yeah.
if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm counting, so, you know, those houses are 2 stories or so. Is that an accurate picture of the houses or?
Yeah, house is accurate. Yeah, from the
Yeah, so
street view.
Right, so just in counting what I can see, you know, I see 2, 4, 6, sort of 7. You know, those houses are approximately 2 stories. You're showing about an 8 or 9-story building, which is not what I'm reading in the nature of the application is for a 6-story mixed-use building. So I just feel that's quite misleading to show a different building than what is being proposed as far as what the impact is on those adjacent households.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Maybe because I do not have enough money to use some I just use the free tools to generate. Yeah, if you can pay the tools, maybe I can generate more accurate. So actually, I tried several times to generate more accurate, but you know that. ChatGPT only provide a few times 1 day. So I spend 1 week, but still cannot get enough accurate image.
Yeah, well, I think this is one of the challenges we're going to be facing going forward with AI kind of working its way into presentations like this. So as long as we're in agreement that that's not an accurate rendition of what's being proposed, I appreciate that. So thank you for clarifying.
But the scale is similar.
Thank you, Councillor McNeese. So,
Well, I mean, scale would be quite a bit different between 6 and 8 story. So I think it's just important to know you've shown something that's about 8 stories when what's in the documentation that's being proposed is 6. So I think it's just important to clarify that. So thank you very much.
thank you, Councillor McNeese. Councillor Elgar, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Similarly, can you show me the natural area picture on the slide?
Okay.
And whether that is a recent picture you've taken?
Yeah, this is from Google.
That's it. That's it.
satellite. Yeah.
Is that a recent satellite like taken
Yes.
yesterday or something?
Yes, I take it from the Google. Google always show the latest one.
What year was that?
What year? I hope maybe it's maybe last year.
So can council, well, we're still on it. Can council confirm if that is what the picture is, what it is right currently that we're dealing with tonight?
Yeah, we can open the Google and show this one. Yes, we can.
No, I don't, the staff, I'm sure staff will be able to, I just need confirmation.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, there has been some tree removal on the site, so that does not represent an accurate picture of what is on site today.
Sorry, this is accurate?
No, sorry, this is not an accurate picture of what's on site today.
When later on, and I will be asking to see the accurate picture we have today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. Thank you, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, would you call the next delegation?
Thank you, Mayor. Pierre Sauvageau.
Mr. Sauvageau, welcome. Council looks forward to your presentation.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I just want to state beforehand that according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which maps human motivation, shelter sits at the very foundation of the pyramid along food and water. Next slide, please. Okay, basically the discussion will be on those 6 points. Next slide. Now, it's been stated before, but we're changing from N, which is a natural area zone, to RH. The only thing is I forgot to mention, there's also proposed an exception which increases the RH density from the max of presently from 185 to 203 units per hectare. As you mentioned before, this is a six-story mixed-use building, including office and daycare, and it's 190 affordable housing and 103 underground and at underground or at grade. Next slide. Okay, this is where I want to have a more discussion. The applicant's proposing amending the livable Oakville plan to high-density residential with a special exemption, like I mentioned before. Now, with this high-density residential designation, it, as I said before, it permits between 51 to 185 units per hectare. Now, as mentioned as well, I want to reiterate this point. This proposal suggests way above, 200 and some more units per hectare. Now, any growth in an established neighborhood should maintain the existing character and supports the town overall urban structure. The policy criteria for evaluating development application within stable residential communities is found in section 11.1.9. Specifically, I want to address point A in regards to the scale, height, massing, and architectural character, as well as materials. And it should be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The building, based on staff's comment, the building massing is mitigated through vertical articulation, materials, and colors. The building is also pushed back from the 6th line to reduce the massing impacts along the street and maintain an alignment with other structures to the north and south. North and south is a lot further than the immediate neighborhood. Collectively, this gives perception, mind you, it's a perception of a smaller building, which is better integrated within the surrounding neighborhood built form. As a reasonable individual, it does not meet this policy criteria. Okay, the building is not integrated into the surrounding neighborhood's built form. The neighborhood massing along the street is 2-story buildings. The front of the proposed building is 100% more, 4 stories, they suggest. Well, majority of the building is 6 stories, or 200% more than the norm of 2-story buildings. And it still is a 6-story wall, 72.18 feet, or 22 meters. Next slide, please. This is a visual which I took from the report. And as you can see, it is massive. And in regards to a more reasonable presentation, on your right, you see a 1-story, which is Munn's, oh, pardon, on your left is the Munn's School, as well further down to the left one-story, two-story buildings? No, it's mainly one story. The commercial across the street, one story. Next slide. So therefore, it's very excessive to height. Now, in regards to the policy criteria B, development should be compatible with the setbacks, orientation, and separation distance within the surrounding neighborhood. And staff's comment, the proposed site plan zoning restricts building height, building setbacks to adjacent properties to maintain privacy. Now, it's very interesting because it says site-specific. It doesn't reflect the neighborhood, okay? Now, the site-specific is not compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. This is overdevelopment. With respect to criteria C, it does not meet policy criteria because it states specifically gradation in building height shall be used to achieve a transition in height from adjacent development. Now, the adjacent development, one story commercial on the other side of the street, one story school right side, the other side houses. Now, the height is 6 stories. When the whole neighborhood specifically is 2-story max. Now, with respect to the roads and infrastructure, I concur with the staff. It is sufficient. Next, please. Next slide. Now, the surface parking shall be minimized on the site. Good for them. Vehicle ownership may be lower. I concur. However, parking is certainly minimized. Certainly is minimized. Only 71 residential spaces proposed compared to the current bylaw with requirement of 145. So there's going to be a lot of changes within the OP and the zoning going on if this proposal goes through. Now, the impact on adjacent properties shall be minimized in relation to drainage, location of services. I concur with the staff. Next slide, please. Now, with respect to transportation system, it should be adequately accommodate anticipated traffic volumes. Well, to be honest with you, I can see the volumes not going up significantly, but any person who's driven down that road, the traffic backlog is so significant. The congestion during school time, especially for the morning and afternoon drop-off, it's unbelievable. You should see the lineup. Now, with respect to utilities, I concur with the staff that it's sufficient. Next slide, please. Overall, proposed development statistics, I'll focus specifically on the proposed density at the very bottom. It's 308 units per hectare. Now, there's clarification because it was stated in the report 234. I did the calculations on the right. Now, the 308, which was in a previous document, I can't remember where I got this table, but if you use net development for the apartment or the building, it's actually 308. So I think it's more reasonable to say the density is 308, not 234. And I remind you as well, the high density residential is really between 51 and 185. Now you want a special exemption, and it's ridiculously high. Next slide, please. Now I tried to do the recent intensification sites, and it was mentioned in the report, McCraney, 6th line, and then the other 6th line. Just to let you know, the address on the bottom, 1269, I got up from the report, isn't correct. The address is, I think, 20, let me see where it is here. It's 2163. Now, as you can see, I did the calculation. The McCraney is 186. Very good, it's at the top of the high density. The next one is for the townhouse development. is 73.68. And the 9-story mixed use, which I believe council went to the Ontario Labor, oh, I forgot, pardon me, Ontario Land Tribunal, pardon me. So everyone wanted 6 probably. The 9 which happened, God bless. I don't understand where this tribunal is coming from, but they approved 9 stories. Next slide, please. Now, I just want to say that I want to emphasize the reduction of the tree canopy.
Mr. Sauvageau?
Yes, I understand. I've got a couple
I hope you're
minutes.
coming to your final point.
Yes, I shall. It's just the fact that we're asking the report that this developer will have tried to have a tree canopy of only 25%. As you can see, South Oakville, where this property is located, in 2018, it's 32.6. So we're moving backwards as a town for this site. In conclusion, next slide, please. Thank you for engaging the community. It is essential for creating plans that reflect the needs and desires of the people who live in the neighborhood, as you heard previous delegates. Okay. Unfortunately, the revised development proposal has not changed much. Density is still excessive, as well as the number of stories. To achieve high density units of 185 per hectare, you need 150 units using the full acreage. But specifically for the lower acreage, the net area, it's only 114 units. In other words, this proposal should go back to the drawing board. Reduce the size, reduce the units, reduce the height.
Mr. Sauvageau, thank you for the generosity of your comments.
Oh, I'm always here to do that, but the generosity should be
O'Meara,
stated.
Sir.
Pardon me?
Councillor O'Meara has a question for you.
I have a question for you, Mr.
Okay.
Sauvageau. Thank you very much. I guess, Mr. Sauvageau, you've been here for quite a while, and you've delegated on numerous issues
Yes,
here.
I have.
And I guess my question to you is that this is an official plan amendment. Meaning they're trying to amend the official plan, which by and large, most of our development applications all come through amendments and not through the official plan. So I guess my question is, when you're holding the demerits of the application up to the fact that it doesn't adhere to the official plan, but this is a request to amend the official plan, I guess my question is, what are the merits that you're arguing about why not because it doesn't meet the official plan? That's why it's here, because it's an amendment. But what is it about the additional stuff that the entire purpose of this committee is to deal with amendments to the official plan, not because it doesn't adhere to the official plan. And I guess what is it about the amendments that you have a concern about, not just because it doesn't meet what the official plan says, because that's the reason why it's here in the first place?
I appreciate
Councillor,
that question very much.
Mr. Sauvageau, please wait a minute. Councillor, I think he spoke to the aspects of it that he didn't like, and I'm sure he's grateful to you for pointing out that, citing that they didn't fit the official plan, is not a good argument. But the fact remains, he's made it clear what he doesn't like, and I think we should just accept that.
I wasn't actually clear about that, Your Worship. That's why I asked Mr. Sauvageau about that. I get what you're trying to go to, and I wasn't making a point. I'm just asking above and beyond, like, what is it about over the scale that I was asking for clarity? But if you prefer I don't ask the question, I'm happy to yield.
The question's already been asked.
I try to discourage debate between councillors and the delegations. My theory has been that the councillors debate the issues, the delegations provide their views, and we consider them.
Yes, but the question was asked.
Excuse me, sir.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Turn off his
Are you trying to get me?
Mr. Sauvageau. Mr. Sauvageau. Mr. Sovaso, you still have to adhere to our rules.
Yes, but you know, previous delegates had questions, concerns.
Mr. Sovaso, Mr. Sovaso,
Yes.
you're done. I've been very generous to you.
Actually, you have not. I've seen previous delegates from
Mr. Sovaso,
which have exceeded.
Mr. Sovaso,
Oh, that's fine.
Mr. Sovaso, you are over time. You're disturbing the meeting. Thank you.
I apologize, Your Worship.
Thank you, Counselor. I see, I believe, I understand. Mr. Clerk, there's no I thought I was very clear. There's no dispute about the points he made up. The only dispute was whether or not it was fair to compare it to the OP. I said I think it is. I don't know how you can quarrel with that, but I mean, in any case, it's out of order, so let's proceed with the meeting. Mr. Clerk, would you call the next delegation?
Thank you, Mayor. Sarah Cumming.
Ms. Cumming, welcome. Council looks forward to your presentation.
Thank you for having me again today. I always feel a little stressed coming after all the opposers, since we all know I am not one of them, as I've spoken on behalf of this project before. The last time I was here, I talked to you about all the research on why a building like this is so important and what is happening internationally in this field. And today I'm going to talk to you about this particular model and a different element to it than I talked to you about before. This model integrates housing, supports, and research to shape the future of community well-being, and importantly, to generate the evidence communities need to make better decisions over time. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the innovative approach of having a living lab right inside this building. Can I change it myself here? Yes, okay, it just wasn't last time I had to ask you. Municipalities today are being asked to make increasingly complex housing decisions, often without access to strong local evidence. At the same time, we are seeing rising pressure on shelters. Our shelters here are full with waiting lists, our healthcare systems, and social services. Traditional housing models are largely static. They are built, occupied, and managed, but they are not designed to learn, adapt, or improve over time. What this model does differently is embed that learning directly into the housing itself through the Center for Integrated Housing and Wellbeing, a living lab that resides within the building. The center is a research and learning hub that studies how integrated housing models function in real time, how different populations are best supported, how services interact, and how outcomes evolve. It tracks what is working, identifies where the gaps exist, and ensures that models can continuously improve. This enables earlier intervention and prevention, rather than waiting for any challenges to escalate into any type of crisis. For example, the center can identify which combination of housing and supports leads to the most stable outcomes for residents and how this impacts the use of services across the entire community, giving Oakville real data to guide future planning and investment. What this means for Oakville is reduced long-term system pressure, stronger planning decisions, and alignment with national priorities around evidence-based housing. Oakville already has a strong reputation for livability, quality of life, and for thoughtful planning. This project builds on that by positioning Oakville at the forefront of housing innovation in Canada. What makes this model stand out is the integration of housing supports and embedded research at scale. Across Canada, housing innovation is typically delivered through short-term pilots. Sorry, I lost my space there. I was thinking about getting yelled at. This means that learning does not end when a project ends. It continues, evolves, and strengthens over time. This creates a platform to attract research funding, government partnerships, academic collaborations, including with Sheridan College, and Mohawk, who are already partners. It also generates something municipalities rarely have: real local data to guide future zoning, housing mix, and service planning. And that is what positions Oakville not just as a participant, but as a leader in how communities respond to housing challenges. The decision before you enables a new model of housing, one that integrates supports, research, and continuous improvements. At the center of that is the Center for Integrated Housing and Wellbeing, which acts as the engine of the model, generates evidence, identifies what's working, and ensures that the system continues to evolve. This represents a shift from reacting to challenges after they emerge to understanding and preventing them early. It also strengthens Oakville's position for future funding and investment, so as governments increasingly prioritize models that can demonstrate measurable impact. Importantly, this is a low-risk opportunity. It is backed by experienced partners and a leadership team with deep expertise in psychology, sociology, and health, with over 100 publications and millions in funded applied research. At the same time, it's a high-impact investment with long-term benefits across housing, health, and social systems. At its core, this is about how Oakville chooses to evolve. The community is changing despite all of the conversation that is occurring. The question is whether we respond after challenges take hold or whether we plan ahead to protect what makes Oakville exceptional. This model does the latter. It protects livability, quality of life by generating the knowledge needed to respond effectively as pressures emerge. And it positions Oakville as the leader, not just in what it's doing today, but in how it shapes the future. The center is what turns housing into infrastructure for learning, prevention, and better decision-making. Really. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Cummings. I think I remember your first presentation very well, and for a moment there was a couple of times when I felt I might be in a class, and I hadn't done
Sorry,
the
it's
reading.
the professor and me.
So could you just, for the sake of the public, refresh everybody's recollection of what you do and the perspective that you're coming from?
I have a PhD in sociology. I've been a professor for over 20 years now, and I have over $2 million in research funding on how to build collaborative, innovative communities to solve real-world problems. Simultaneously, I've been the executive director of Home Sweet Hope for the last 8 years.
And thank you for that, because Community Living Oakville is a generations-old community-based response to social need, and Home Sweet Hope, I'm proud to say, the same. Maybe not as long, but certainly coming on to 25, 30 years.
Yeah, we had we just had our 20th anniversary in 2024.
Yeah,
so
so
yeah.
We're speaking from some experience.
Yes.
I find that helpful. Thank you for that. And
Sure.
Councillor Heslett-Teal and Councillor Elgar have questions.
Sure.
Thank you for your question, and hopefully you do not get yelled at by people.
Every time I come here, I get yelled at. It's okay.
Well, over time, people will come together. My question is really simple. It wasn't clear to me on the daycare side. Is it exclusive for those in the new building, or is it open to other residents in the area who may have daycare needs?
As of right now, I believe it's first right of refusal to the people living in the building.
Okay. But there is a potential that it could be.
If it's not filled up, yes.
Okay, and sort of as a follow-up to that, there are other services that are going to be provided within the homes. Are any of those accessible to others in the neighborhood that over time you may find they benefit from?
I will actually let someone else answer that when they come up, or now.
So thank you for clarifying that, because sometimes it's good for people to know that you're not just in a building by yourselves,
No.
though obviously lots of learning is going to happen, et cetera, but there may be other opportunities for connection and supports as the project, depending on council's decision tonight, proceeds. So thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar?
Thank you. Through Mayor Burton, thanks for the presentation. It might be helpful to give a little more of an explanation. Like, we're supposed to have 205 parking spaces. We only need 103, and only 71 are residential. Can you explain, like, you have other areas where this is happening. Is it working with only half of what should be there in theory?
So yes, I'm not a planner, so I'm only going to talk about from theory and research at the moment. So most of the participants who live in buildings such as this don't own vehicles. That is one level of it. In fact, we know in two organizations that are in this building, we know that less than 50% have access to a vehicle, never mind own a vehicle. But in addition to that, we also want to talk about livable cities, and we are always trying to build more environmentally friendly cities. And so there are many people who live with this viewpoint now and who don't actually have vehicles. And I know I heard at council last time, this is ridiculous that people don't drive. People don't drive. Many people in this community don't drive. So I would say that this works. We've seen it work over and over again. That's why the proposal is here.
Can you give me any addresses where this is in effect now? Like, it doesn't matter which city, but
Well,
where,
I can give you just in Georgetown, for example, there's a brand new building that is going up on 17 Guelph that doesn't have parking for the residents in it. So
And
that's
any
just
others?
a local one I know of.
Okay.
If we look at Toronto, in Toronto, there's many of these buildings. If you look at Wood Green, who is actually my sister, I didn't build. Home Sweet Hope is built beyond them. Same thing, they have hundreds of units of all single moms, and they don't have parking for them.
So is this basically for basically going to be for single moms going forward? Is that your idea?
For a percentage of it, there are
Yes.
5 not-for-profits altogether in the building. So there are seniors, there are single mothers, there are domestic violence survivors, there are people living with developmental delays.
Okay. So all us counselors couldn't move in there right away then, I guess, right?
No.
Okay. I thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thanks for coming out. I had a question about the accessible and the deeply affordable units. Do those cross over? Are the accessible units part of the deeply affordable? Just wondering the correlation between the two.
Again, I have to defer that question because I can only tell you about Home Sweet Hope's buildings. So I don't know who I'm going to defer.
Well, it's all right. We're going to
When they come up, they'll come up.
Later in this
Yeah, they'll come back
this
up.
evening, we're going to be hearing from MHBC, and they will have their fingertips on all of that. For
Awesome,
you, I'm
thank
pretty
you.
Sure. Ms. Cummings, thank you very much.
I think
Councillor
Councillor Knoll has
Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for your presentation, and I will not yell at you. I'm curious about context here. So why this site and not another site? I saw one of the previous delegates in his slide deck had a nice picture of Midtown on it, which I saw the look on Councillor Hazathiel's face. It was a Niagara Falls moment. Why this location rather than another location like Midtown? Or is there a rationale for why a project like this belongs in that kind of community? Because we heard some people say it doesn't belong in this community.
Well,
tell me why it does.
I think there are multiple reasons. So from a Home Sweet Hope perspective, we will have up to 30 units in this building. All of my participants are full-time college students at Sheridan College while single parenting. So it makes the college very accessible to them. And in addition, part of the center's task and within the building will be to train students who are coming up in PSW, SSW, kinesiology, all of these things, which will give them real world experience right within the building. So it makes perfect sense that that's where it would be.
So what I would like to know a little bit about is the actual value of having residents living in a building in that kind of community versus in a a higher density area such as Midtown Core or somewhere else like that? Is there value in a location like this for the residents, not necessarily for the professionals, but for the residents from a lifestyle, from a quality of life perspective?
Yeah, of course there is. It's integrated living at its best. You don't want to isolate people into very typical types of neighborhoods. You want a family neighborhood. These are people who want families. But it doesn't just, I think it's lost that it's only good for the people living in the affordable housing units. All of the research shows that communities thrive when we do this. It's good for the whole community. It brings money into the community, even though we don't think that it does. There's people shopping, there's people joining kids' sports, there's people going to school. There's all of these things happening. And it teaches about difference as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm leaving now. Thank you.
All right.
I'm going this
Thank
way.
you, Ms. Cummings. Mr. Clerk, would you call the next delegation, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Stephen Barrow.
Mr. Barrow, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you, Your Worship and honorable members of council. Thank you for having us here today. I guess I'll just get right to it. The last time so my name's Dr. Stephen Barrow. I'm a social planner with Community Development Halton. For those who may not be familiar, we're the Social Planning and Research Council for the region, as well as the Volunteer Center. So we're really focused on community engagement, tackling issues relevant to the community, housing and homelessness being a huge part of that. And the last time I was here, back in November, I believe, I shared a PowerPoint, lots of data. This time around, I opted to share a little bit more about myself, some of the work I'm doing with CDH, and why we're advocating for this building. So my background is in oral history. That's what my PhD is in. I've spent the last 10 years walking alongside folks that are actively experiencing homelessness or had past lived experience. I started out working a lot with young people, 2S LGBTQ youth that had been kicked out or experiencing homelessness. I have loved ones that are currently experiencing homelessness, and currently I work with a dedicated team of peer researchers who have direct lived experience with being unhoused in the recent past. And these brave folks, I've had the great privilege of seeing them go from, some folks living in their cars or living in urban parks in our region, to being housed, having a home, and being able to lend their gifts to the community to make change and to make things better. And a lot of our work involves going out and talking to people in encampments. We go into shelters, and we try to understand the housing and homelessness crisis that we find ourselves in across the region and across, indeed, the country. And as Dr. Cummings has mentioned just a few moments ago, rather articulately, she mentioned change and how we find ourselves in a lot of turbulent change. The nature of homelessness in our communities is changing. In the last 10 years, just speaking from my own experience, hearing from folks, hearing their stories, trying to advocate, getting involved in policy, getting involved in understanding, what cracks are people falling through, and what is working, what's really helping people. I come from, I was raised by a single mother who is still in her 60s, is an auto manufacturer, works on an assembly line, and I grew up in a single detached home. She was able to just get by 20 years ago on one salary in a single detached home. But speaking of change, that's really no longer viable for a lot of people. We talk about denser housing as being a significant change to a neighborhood, and indeed it is. But it also involves, in the current climate we're in economically, a chance for people to have a home, particularly our single parent neighbors, our neighbors experiencing homelessness or housing precarity, and the chance for their kids to go to a school that's nearby. So currently in Halton, for a full-time worker earning minimum wage, they would need to spend significantly more than the affordable threshold of 30% of their income to afford even a one-bedroom apartment. This is especially acute for those who are not working or on social assistance, our seniors and older adults. A lot of our neighbors that are already here in our neighborhoods, but they're couch surfing, they're living in their cars, they're accessing shelter, and they're not living in a permanent home. In my time walking alongside folks with lived experience with homelessness, the one thing I've really come to appreciate is how resilient people are as individuals, but they shouldn't have to be. And that also, resilience is a community matter. It really involves all of us. It involves all of us making space for each other to also live a good life. And over time, homelessness has really changed. It's gone from something much less public, much less pervasive, to impacting folks that, working families even, older adults. And when people experience homelessness, it's inherently traumatic. A development like this is one major way to interrupt that downward spiral. And so earlier, again, Dr. Cummings had mentioned the impact to our communities longer term, the impact on services, the way that people give back to their community when they become a part of it. These are all things that we really have to consider. And we often say that it takes a village to raise a child. Tonight, or more broadly, we have the opportunity to decide what kind of village we are. One that turns people away, or one that makes room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, the next delegation.
Nazim Al-Hashmi.
Good evening, Your Worship and honorable councillors. I'm one of the objectors too, unfortunately. And I represent Community Living Oakville tonight. And unfortunately, our executive director couldn't be here, Alexander Howick Murray, so I will share a few points as to why we're endorsing the idea of Post Residence Inc. Today I had the opportunity to actually sit in a town hall and see a number of concerned residents for various reasons, and I do recognize that, we're talking about traffic, we're talking about affordability, we're talking about safety, and a gentleman had mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which at the bottom of that basis was a physiological need and shelter. So I was thinking he was going in the direction of something like this would warrant or be warranted in Oakville. Yeah, it kind of got flipped upside down, and it is what it is. So I'm here to continue to endorse this idea because it's almost like an angelic partnership. We've been in Oakville for 70 years, operating group homes and independent group homes, and up to this day, some people still don't know about Community Living Oakville. We've had our office on 310 Wycroft, 240 Wycroft. We have an office as well where we employ people who experience disability. We have employment programs for people who experience disability. We have different community connection programs, which are kind of like day services for people and elders that experience disability as well. And we have 18 group homes that have supported people for over 70 years who experience both mental and physical disability. Yet we've quietly trucked along. But we are recognizing that there is a crisis for sure for people who experience disability and housing and livable housing. So this, as I said, is almost an angelic partnership that we couldn't even foresee coming, but we were lucky enough to be able to receive 20-ish units in this building. And it's not just four walls for people. I want people to understand that it's safety, it's dignity, and it's belonging. It's a place where life happens for people, where people can rest, where people can grow, and they can be amongst other residents in that building and not rely on just staff. They can rely on a neighbor. They can rely on maybe a single mom that says, hey, I'll make you dinner tonight. Do you want to come over? It's an entire ecosystem of a community that's going to support our most vulnerable people in society. Now imagine if you never had that. And in some cases, we heard this gentleman here say that homelessness is on the rise. And we're faced with that crisis. Today, more than 53,000 individuals are currently waiting for services. Parents are aging, they're getting tired. We're seeing a lot of abandonment at the hospital because they can't take care of their loved one. What a place to be. I can't imagine even being in that. And as the director at CLO Oakville, I've had the opportunities to try to support this situation and provide housing that is livable, habitable, and safe. These people that we're supporting are not just numbers. They're not just ChatGPT depictions. These are people, these are sons, daughters, neighbors, friends, and people who want to just belong, just a place to call home. But here's the hard truth. Housing in communities like Oakville has become increasingly out of reach. The people we support are often living on ODSP, which is the Ontario Disability Support Program income. They're trying to survive in a market that was never built with them in mind. But these are people that have lived in Oakville their entire life. Why should they be forced to go somewhere else? They're being priced out, pushed aside, and even sometimes left behind. And when you don't have stable housing, everything else begins to fall apart. Your health, your independence, and your sense of self. Can you imagine not having a place to go home tonight after we're done here? That's why this initiative, Post Residence Inc., is not just another development project. It's hope. It's a response to a crisis that has gone on far too long. It's a commitment to building community where people with just developmental disabilities are not just accommodated, but they're valued. The proposed project at Sixth Line is more than just about affordability. It's about creating a space where people can live with dignity, where supports are available, and where individuals can build meaningful lives, as I mentioned earlier. At Community Living Oakville, we see the impact of housing every single day. When someone has a safe and stable home, everything changes. Confidence grows, independence increases, people begin to participate more fully in their communities. Many of the people we've supported over the last 70 years have contributed right here in the Oakville community, whether they work at the local McDonald's or at the Metro. They have their self-citizenship and they thrive. So let's be clear, this doesn't just benefit the individuals who live there, it strengthens all of us. Because an inclusive community is a stronger community. A compassionate community is a better community. And a community that ensures its most vulnerable members have a place to call home, that is a community that truly understands what it means to care. Post Residence Inc. represents that vision. It represents partnership, it represents action, and most importantly, it represents people who deserve the same opportunities as anyone else in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lashima. Mr. Clerk?
Malcolm French.
Mr. French, welcome. Council looks forward to hearing from you.
I'm not afraid of being yelled at. Yell away. I'm the Reverend Canon Malcolm French. I'm the rector of St. Simon's Oakville. I'm also representing the Interfaith Council of Halton. And I've completely rewritten my remarks in light of the conversation so far. So there you go. The great military theorist von Clausewitz once observed that no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. A plan is absolutely essential, but a plan must not be a straitjacket. As a previous delegation noted, plans are based on ideals, but decisions are made in the real world. And as Councillor O'Meara noted earlier, almost every development that happens in town will require amendments to the official plan. This project has been reviewed by town staff, dedicated professionals who have no political axe to grind, staff who are in the best and most correct
use of the word disinterested. These professionals have concluded that the project proposal, as it's been adapted, meets the town's goals in a way that is sustainable and appropriate. This project provides affordable and stable housing as well as social supports for residents and, as we've heard, for more than just residents. And we know from available research that investment in affordable housing results in reduced downstream costs in several areas, including emergency healthcare, social services, and policing. Everyone agrees we need more affordable housing, just so long as it's somewhere else. After a lot of work and partnership, Post residents developed a proposal. After public consultation, they made adaptations to that proposal in response to concerns. The town's professional staff have examined that adapted proposal and have recommended the proposal and the required changes to the official plan be approved. I have not heard anything this evening that persuades me the staff recommendation should be overturned. Thank you.
Mr. French, thank you very much.
You weren't expecting von Clausewitz, were you?
Mr. Clerk, the next delegation.
Garth Brown.
Mr. Brown, welcome. Council would like to hear from you now.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Councilors, it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. My name is Garth Brown, and I've been a resident of Oakville since 1999. I thank you for the opportunity this evening to address the vital need the supportive housing post-residents will create. I may stand here alone, but I have the pleasure and privilege of being part of the Halton Faith Network, and many are here in attendance today. And many are joining every week. We all realize and we all see the need for change, and so we support the post-residents proposal in part for the reasons I will share with you this evening. While Oakville is a beautiful community to reside in and continues to have a reputation for affluence, it also provides the largest concentration of social housing beds throughout Halton Region. Most of these homes are in the Glen Abbey area, right in my backyard. And I'm pleased to see the diversity of households served by our schools, community center, plazas, and healthcare system. Rather than touch on points other delegates will and have elaborated on, I'll focus on 3 stories tonight. Stories about families who have been lifted out of poverty by the kind of homes post-residents will create. More than just bricks and mortar, the residents will benefit from outreach and supports customized to ensure their best chance to move forward with their lives and brighter futures, not just for themselves, but also for their children and for their grandchildren. When we make the resolution to break the cycle of poverty with the proven supportive housing model post-residence offers, we make conscious decisions that will benefit a family for generations to come. And we truly create a livable Oakville for everyone. In 2013, I built my first legal secondary suite in a small Burlington bungalow. The 2-bedroom basement apartment was created to support families in need. The first tenant to move into the unit was a woman and her daughter escaping an abusive relationship. When I handed them the keys, they had tears in their eyes, and I had tears in mine. With safe, secure, and affordable housing, the benefit of a rent subsidy provided by Halton Region, and vital outreach supports, this is the key, outreach supports from a housing agency, Mom was quickly able to secure a full-time job at a company she still works at to this day. She and her daughter moved out within a year because she could afford market rent housing with her secure income. 13 years later, her daughter is now immersed in post-secondary studies with an exciting career on the horizon. Supportive housing works. In 2014, when a family from the Mideast moved into the main floor of that same bungalow, they were expecting their second child. New to the country, they were very grateful for a secure roof over their head. His income, their only income, was dependent on extensive hours driving Uber. With guidance and customized support from a local agency, he studied to be a registered massage therapist. Fast forward to 3 months ago. I was at a medical clinic here on Spears Road for a scan. My name was called, and as I walked out of the waiting room and down that hall, we all know that hall, the medical technician who greeted me was the same man that was driving Uber 13 years earlier. He had changed his life and the life of his family, thanks to the provision of safe, secure, and affordable supportive housing. He kindly shared photos of his family, including his daughter born shortly after they had moved into our home back in 2013. The beautiful full circle experience wasn't lost on me. I had helped him over a decade ago, and now he was providing priceless help to me in that diagnosis clinic. Supportive housing works. When another family moved into our home, they were facing an uphill battle. Mom had been a family doctor back in the Mideast, but needed to study and pass several exams to meet and exceed Ontario standards. Having a safe, secure home with a rent subsidy and effective and compassionate outreach provided by a local agency allowed her to focus on her studies and pass exams, one after the other after the other. It took her more than a year for her to reach her goal. In a year and a half, she was a family doctor practicing here in Canada. Supportive housing works. 3 stories, 3 realities, 3 families needing our social system and today contributing to our social system. Since that first legal secondary suite, I've built several others here in Oakville, throughout Halton, and beyond. Most have provided homes for households on the region's Hatch housing waitlist. And the resilience and creativity of the families I've had the privilege of housing over the past decades is humbling. Their stories, their success, are testimony to the unbridled potential of our community and our country. Please allow the innovative living model of post-residence to thrive. The benefit to the community within the building and throughout our town will be resounding. This housing is only the beginning of initiatives required throughout Oakville to fill the significant deficit of supply of affordable homes here in our community. The vision of this model to serve single mothers and their children, families escaping abusive relationships, seniors, and other groups with agencies who support their progress on site provides a proven model to help these households build community in and outside of the property and build their lives and futures. As a result, there will be opportunities for all of us to love our neighbors in new and meaningful ways. For these reasons, I respectfully urge Council to approve the application and allow this important project to move forward. I thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Questions, Council? Sir, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Mr. Clerk?
Jennifer Monte.
Ms. Monte, welcome. Council's ready to hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councillors. My name is Jennifer Monte, and I'm the president of the Halton Particular Council of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. We've been in Canada for 180 years, so we're old. I live in Oakville in the Glen Abbey neighborhood. It's an area with 6-story buildings next to townhouses and detached homes at Dorval and North Service Road and third line across from the Glen Abbey Rec Center. So we have these buildings, as Garth had mentioned. Gridlock usually is not from these buildings. It's not from these buildings. It is coming from the GO station, everyone heading home up to Dundas. I've been caught in it numerous times going cross-ward. So in Oakville, there are roughly 200 volunteers with St. Vincent de Paul. We understand the importance of stable housing for our neighbors who are vulnerable. We visit with those who call us, anyone in need, in their homes, at our churches, on the street. We build relationships, we provide grocery assistance, whatever is needed, and we help navigate the supports available in the community. In 2025 alone, we helped over 1,300 people, 874 adults, and 464 children in Oakville. We dispersed over 500,000 into the community. I'm here today to advocate for post-residence because I believe in the right of each person to safe, affordable housing. To have a community hub designed around a complete model of support is the ideal solution. So I'm going to tell a story or two as well. I met with a teenage girl And this is in Glen Abbey, but these stories that I'm telling, any of my volunteers could tell throughout Oakville. We hear this all the time. This particular girl, she's a teenager, and with her mother and her siblings, they'd been in a shelter for over a year. Her studies were continuously disrupted due to distance to the high school and tech issues. She was sent to live elsewhere, apart from her family. Finally, the family was placed in a suitable home with a portable housing benefit, making the rent more reasonable. She had stability and could get on with her high school studies. Her siblings, they love school. They were so thrilled. I've never seen little kids so excited to be in school. And the teenagers, they couldn't wait to start a part-time job. They had stability. They were no longer dealing with that trauma of what they had experienced and not knowing where they would live. This future for them was so positive. Too often, the members of St. Vincent de Paul, we step into a situation of crisis, especially with our neighbors who are most vulnerable. Often it is a situation caused by a series of small mistakes and miscommunications, as simple as lost mail and voice messages not received. The situation escalates until it's a full-blown crisis. Our neighbors get cut off of services to which they have the right to access. And that's just because they don't have enough minutes on their phone for the necessary phone call, or they don't have the proper phone number, or they don't know if they can trust the person who answers their call. I've walked away from visits with seniors crying in Oakville, because no one in Oakville should live as these seniors are living. They're isolated and forgotten. Everyone has the best intentions, and I know, because I work with many people at Halton Region. I've called the town before. We're all doing our best. I believe that. But vulnerable persons are falling through the gaps in our social assistance network every day. The key piece missing is the practical support a community hub can provide. Safe, affordable housing with a built-in community. When a vulnerable person knows who they can talk to, and they're in that same building, and it is their neighbor, or they know when they go downstairs to that office, they trust that person has their best interests in mind. That changes everything. With proposals such as post-residence, we speak about number of units. I know the people who need these units. They have faces, they have stories, their journeys are daunting. We're being asked to be a bit uncomfortable with something coming into the community. These people live lives like you would not believe. I've walked into unsafe basement, those illegal basement apartments, into market rent homes that cost so much in this inflated market that there's no money for food or clothing. I've had conversations outside tents with women who are desperate for real walls and with women who need an escape plan. I've also had those conversations when the neighbor calls to say they have found a home, the relief and joy in their voice, it's real. We need to care for all persons in our community, give them a safe, stable place that they can call home. Post-residences fits the need. For these reasons, I respectfully urge Council to approve the application and allow this important project to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Monte. Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk?
Karen Hicks.
Ms. Hicks, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Okay. I'd like to say hello to all the members of the council, and I'd like to acknowledge the fact that in Oakville we need affordable housing. Hello, my name is Karen Hicks. I'm speaking here today on behalf of the Affordable Housing for the Unhoused and also on behalf of my special needs daughter, Brittany. For a special needs person, having affordable housing and a special community is important. Here, she can be supported and she can get help from other people in that community. I would just like to know that my daughter would, after my day, she would have she would have a chance for a place that's affordable and that is safe, and it's somewhere that she can call home. My next area of concern is for the vulnerable, unhoused person. They need shelter out of the cold, as we had a really extreme winter, and also from the intense heat in the summer. And one thing for sure is, if you do not have a fixed address, how can you possibly hold a job or have the ability to access basic human needs, such as food, shelter, medical care, and other services that we all take for granted? I'm sure there are people who believe that the unhoused person should be in a shelter like the Lighthouse or the Women's Shelter. But if there is no place available in those shelters, where is the unhoused person going to get help? And if you dial the 311 number after hours, you will not always be able to access immediate help. And you might also have trouble finding the unhoused person because they have relocated some other place. So I'd just like to say that, that I really support this need for housing for everyone, to make everyone feel included in this beautiful city of Oakville that we are privileged to be a part of, and it's part of our community. And I'd like everyone to have a belonging there and to feel loved and cared by their neighbours. And thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
Kathy Grevin.
Ms. Grevin. Welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Burton and the councillors of Oakville, it's my pleasure to be here this evening. I'm representing first of all, the Halton Faith Network. About a year ago, January, a group of us got together and we've extended an invitation to all of the faith communities in Halton to join us. And we started off with our first project being looking out for the unhoused and trying to find housing for everyone. So this evening, I've been asked to bring a letter to you from Ron Shantz, who will introduce himself in his letter. To Mayor Burton and members of Oakville Town Council, I am writing to express my strong support for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications submitted by Post Residents, Inc. The project represents responsible planning and a meaningful investment in the well-being of families in our community. My support is informed by decades of direct experience in community development and nonprofit housing. I founded KSM 1996 to 2008, co-founded Frontline Outreach 2009 to present, and have served as executive director of Prince Charles Place, a private nonprofit housing community since 1994. Through these roles, I have seen the profound positive impact that stable, affordable housing has on individuals, families, and the broader community. It strengthens lives, reduces long-term costs to taxpayers, and creates pathways to independence, as we've been hearing in these wonderful stories. I also speak from more than 20 years of close partnership with Home Sweet Hope. As their current landlord and someone who has journeyed with the organization since its inception, I can attest to their integrity, professionalism, and transformative work. They have been an agent of change for many single mothers, most of whom are now thriving economically, socially, and relationally. Home Sweet Hope is a credit to this town and their track record speaks for itself. Regarding concerns about building height, I believe this issue must be viewed in the context of today's urgent need for more housing, particularly supportive and affordable housing. The proposed height is modest and entirely reasonable given current planning realities. In fact, just down the street at 1265, there is a 7-story apartment building situated comfortably among single-family dwellings. This demonstrates that the neighborhood already accommodates buildings of similar or greater scale without negative impact. The height proposed for this project is well within what is appropriate for the area and is essential to achieving the number of units required to meaningfully support Home Sweet Hope families. In my experience overseeing nonprofit housing, a building of this scale is both practical and necessary to ensure long-term sustainability and the ability to deliver stable and supportive housing. Traffic has also been raised as a concern. As someone who travels this section of road multiple times a day, weekday and weekend, morning, noon, and evening, I can confidently say that traffic is generally smooth and manageable. The only congestion occurs during school drop-off and pickup times, which is expected given the adjacent school and unrelated to residential development. Additionally, the majority of Home Sweet Hope residents do not own vehicles, which further minimizes any potential traffic impact. This proposal aligns with Oakville's values of compassion, inclusion, and responsible development. It provides safe, stable housing for families working hard to build a better future. And it does so in a location with excellent access to schools, transit, and community supports. For these reasons, I respectfully urge Council to approve the application and allow this important project to move forward. The benefits to the families served and to the town as a whole are substantial and lasting. Sincerely, Ron Shantz. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Greven. Mr. Clerk, the next delegation, please.
Dan Negriano.
Mr. Negriano, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Hello. My name is Dan Negriano, and I am here to speak in opposition to the project. Looks like there was a mix in the order, how we can hear. I'm a bit nervous. It's not my type. I do speak, I have it here. I do speak in front of people, executive, talking about IT risk and cyber attacks, but looks like this discussion hits close to home, literally. Looking to the proposed, the new set of documents, what I've been able to look at, nothing change or nothing substantial change in this proposal, the same 6 floors and the same number of affordable, well, units. Affordable units, I cannot contest this. What has been presented by other people here is there is no transition between this 6-story building and the rest of the neighborhood, which I have to, which I have to acknowledge. There is still non-compliance with the parking. I understand that some people believe that residents will not have cars or not that many cars, which I disagree with. We do not live in a bikeable country or town. We are not in Amsterdam. And I do believe as the time goes by, there will be cars. And I'm just wondering if they have provision charger for the 103 spaces they are providing. Nonetheless, there is less parking than the bylaw says it should be. And also there is the type of parking are blended. So the total number of 71 parking, total of 103 provided, put them together with the visitors and daycare spaces and office spacings, and reduce the overall number of parking spots per unit. Now, 6th line is critical arterial for north, south, and links to GO Station and to the City Hall, for that matter. There is nothing in the presented material that will consider the growth north of Dundas. As we know, they are building there a lot. It's empty space. It's supposed to be there. When it comes to traffic, even if they, we trust the study, I think there is a still difference between the real world and whatever a study can make. And I'm not going to get into these numbers, but no, specialists will go. But I do believe we are already to crowded roads, looking on 6th line and also McCartney. There is no, as we noted, there is no enlargement of the roads, so we will still rely on the two lanes, one per direction. The only thing that has provided is a 10 seconds increase in the cycle of the lights. School traffic is there, and is there to stay. We have school buses, we have people dropping kids, and this will increase with the fact that there's going to be a daycare in there, and potentially will accept children from other, from people living outside of the of that proposed building. Moving forward, or are we? Because looks like 6th line at one point will become 401, a parking lot, because of the congestion. The last point in this slide, I wanted to say that nobody discussed here about fire station. If we have, and I do believe when the city has been designed, they put fire stations along upper middle because it will be easier to go north and also south. If we block 6th line with traffic and there is an emergency, it might be the difference between life and death at one point. So I am surprised that nobody has have noticed this or have mentioning it. And there is Sheridan College. I know that has been said that this is not a student facility, a campus. But if I remember from the last meeting, there were some units designated for charitable, for people with low income. But if I did the math correctly, they will not sum up to 190. Which tells me, and the fact that there are a lot of single bedroom units, tells me that it's easy to advertise it across the park to the students at the Sheridan. Even if it's recognized it or not, is quite possible that this will be, will happen, I don't know, 1 year, 2 years after, because there is discrepancy between the number of units and the fact that there is the college is there, and there is big number of unaccounted units or unprovided. Now, as I said, I do speak different matters with different people. And I know that usually 10 to 20% of the slides are the one that remain in the memory of the audience. And if I can guide your visual memory to this slide, 10%, which is pretty much whatever I covered here. And one more thing, I, like someone else before, changed the speech during the meeting. The fact that I was, planted to have my speech outside of the opposing part, give me the time to feel for you, councillors, because listening to everybody else, I know I have 1.5 minutes, we were speaking, some of us English, the other side French. None of the opposing parts oppose the charity part. We were opposing the building. It's too tall, it's high density, which is not good for the community. The other side have been talking about the charity part, which again, none of us would be against it. And I feel for you because you have to make a decision based on two different things. And if I can answer a question that I haven't been asked by, or actually to Mr. O'Mara, if he will ask me the question that he asked earlier, what the mitigating factor, sorry, I'm speaking in IT terms, what the mitigating factor would be here for this to be accepted or at least have a chance from the community, I think the answer will be cut the top 3 floors. And this will have plenty of space for the charities and will not be, the out of context building or out of the zoning building. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Negrani. Mr. Clerk, the next delegation.
Andrew Hannaford and Oz Kamal.
Council and public, these folks are from MHBC Planning. They handled the file, so Councillor Giddings, I call that, I mentioned them to you earlier for your question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
But they have a presentation first.
Thank you.
We'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Welcome, sir. We look forward to your information.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Andrew Hannaford. I'm an associate with MHBC Planning. I'm here this evening on behalf of our client, Post Residences Incorporated, for their property at 1493 6th Line. I'm joined this evening by Oz Kamal, partner with MHBC Planning, and the owner, Blake Hampton Davies, who's also present in the audience tonight. We're very pleased to be here tonight to support the recommendation that your staff have brought before you for approval of this application. This project proposes a 6-story, 190-unit, fully affordable rental development in the town of Oakville. As you know, and I don't have to tell you this, it's a critical project for the town of Oakville. It addresses a significant and urgent need for affordable housing supply. This development is the result of strong partnerships with several community organizations, some of whom you've heard from earlier tonight. We'd also like to specifically thank town staff for all of the collaboration and diligence that they have put into helping us bring this application forward to you tonight. This isn't in my notes, but you've heard a lot of opposing viewpoints tonight. I think it's important to recognize that those aren't divorced viewpoints that don't relate to each other, as may have been suggested. There's the land use planning side, which obviously I'm qualified to speak to, but the land use planning side has real impacts on the societal and social aspects that you've also heard from tonight. I think it's really important that we don't separate those, but that we recognize how one impacts the other. When we're talking about what's before you, which is an official plan and a zoning bylaw amendment, that's what you're actually approving. And when we talk about planning, planning is planning for outcomes that you want to see. That's where you want your community to go. And that's what town staff and previous councils and yourselves have worked quite hard on through the town's official plan. But recognizing that the outcomes you want to achieve aren't always implemented by plans planned in the past. The outcome of this application is 190 units, multiply that by however many people live in each of those units. It's housing for those people, it's supports for those people, and it's a development which seeks to really bring the community together rather than, pull it apart as maybe suggested. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Again, we're very pleased to be here tonight. There were some questions for the previous delegates that may not have been answered, so I'm happy to speak to those if you have any more. And yeah, we're available should you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, well, we have two councillors who have been waiting for you, Councillor Elgar and then Councillor Giddings and then Councillor O'Meara, and I'll add more as I see the hands. Councillor Elgar?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you for coming. You mentioned fully affordable. Okay, what is fully affordable? Because it certainly seems to be a big spread between CMHC and the province, what they say it is. So is the CMHC says up to $4,070 a month is fully affordable. The province says it's between $1,317 to $2,379. What are we charging here?
Sure, and thank you for the question, and through the mayor. So this application, by fully affordable, what I meant was that all 190 units are affordable. And I think that's important because we do a lot of affordable housing projects across Ontario. This is the only one I've ever worked on where 100% of the units are affordable. It's rare, and it's quite special. In terms of the actual affordability level, you're correct. CMHC defines affordable as someone not paying more than 30% of their housing costs towards renter housing. I think you've raised the figure, which changes every year. For this development, affordability will be set at the Ontario Affordable Housing Bulletin rates, which are updated every year, and secured at those rates for a period of 25 years. I don't have the exact rent for you today, but it will be at the Ontario Affordable Housing Bulletin rates.
And what happens after 25 years? Why is it 25 years? That's my question.
It's a fair question, and through the mayor, I think it's hard to plan for things past 25 years. There's a reason why most plans have a horizon of 2051 in the planning world, for example. I don't think there's an intent to necessarily end affordability after a 25-year period. It's just legally committing it to a period of 25 years so that you're confident that the approval that you're bringing forward isn't vanishing in the near future. There's no intent to end that after 25 years. It's just to ensure that you're protected so that no one comes back and says, in 5 years from now, you know what, the math doesn't work, we can't do it affordable anymore. That's not the intent here, and that won't happen.
Now, when you said the Ontario affordability is every year, what is it for this year? I know it won't be billed this year, but what is it for this year?
I apologize, Councillor, I don't have that exact figure on me for you tonight. But
I'm sure staff will have it. So no, I appreciate that because I just look at CMHC in the province, so I'd be interested to see what Ontario says. So I'm sure they'll have the answer when we get to that point. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Councillor, I thought you were quoting the Ontario number and contrasting it for being lower than the CMHC number a little earlier. Did I misunderstand?
Burton, I was trying to, but maybe I'm wrong. And that's the reason the provinces are ranged from 13 to 2379. So I thought, this is what I just don't understand. So I appreciate it.
I took your information to be true. I'm sure that, anyway, we'll see. We'll see if there's different information. Councillor Giddings?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the 190 affordable, including the 35 deeply affordable. What about accessible units? How many of those?
Thank you, and through the mayor, yeah, so 30% of the units, which is 57 units, would be fully accessible units. So wheelchair friendly, accessible under the building code. Yeah.
Good stuff, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you very much. Just had a question about the NHS designation and about the sort of, that's important to the people, not just in the community, but to people who are going to live there. And I'm just wondering if you can elaborate on what the plans are for greenery and for green space on the property and how that might help benefit not just the community, but the future residents who are going to live there.
Sure, thank you for the question, and through the mayor, yeah. So staff alluded to this in their presentation, but to elaborate, So this site obviously has a large kind of woodlot at the back of it, which ties into the McCraney Valley Trail system, connects everyone to Sheridan College and the various town features. The site also had an existing residence on it at the front. Through the regional official plan, when they prepared it, they do a desktop analysis to kind of in broad strokes paint natural heritage systems across all of Halton. Through that, they did identify our site as a regional natural heritage system. The amendment before you for the official plan amendment seeks to remove that from a portion of the site and make it residential high density. The intent behind that is to recognize that there are existing natural features on the rear of the site, and we have studied that through an environmental impact statement prepared by our consultant, NRSI, if I get the acronym correct. And so through that they did, and this was reviewed by town staff as well as Conservation Halton, confirm the boundaries of those natural features and what is to be protected. In addition to that, there's a 10-meter buffer from those lands to ensure that there's no impact from the development negatively on those protected natural lands. So the development will occur fully outside of that. Those lands would be protected in perpetuity through easements that they can't be developed. And ultimately, it's just kind of protecting an existing asset through the development, which is tied into the trail system and is also a benefit for residents of the development because it's part of the site. It becomes almost an amenity. Access to nature obviously is very important. And we are proposing to tie into that existing trail system on the south side of our site, which ties into the park system as well. So yeah, we've planned purposely to take advantage of that while also protecting for the natural features.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Councillor Grant?
Thank you for confirming the 10-meter buffer. I'll move on to the next one then. If parking demand does exceed what's planned, what steps can you take?
Sure. Thank you, and through the mayor. So yes, we are proposing a parking reduction for this development. If in the unlikely event that parking demand does exceed supply, I'd say a few things. First, that as you've heard, there will be multiple operators of units within this building. Parking spaces are not tied to the units. They would be managed by each of those housing providers. So it's not a guarantee that if you have housing in this development, that you will have a parking space. So that helps to ensure that we're not providing units to those who require parking. For those people, it would be said that this isn't an appropriate development because there is not that parking supply to support your needs. So I think it's a very unlikely scenario that we would see that over subscription of parking because it's being managed from the outset, and all of the partners are aware that there is limited parking on this site, and that's also part of the appeal of this site. It makes the units more affordable. It serves a part of the market that does not need those parking spaces. We've also worked closely and extensively with town staff to demonstrate that the rate that we are proposing is appropriate for this development. So we surveyed a number of similar, and I say similar in that there's an affordable component of those rental developments. None of those developments were 100% affordable, such as this one. And in those proxy sites, we saw a demand of 0.33 to 0.37 spaces per unit, which is bang on what we're proposing. And in the visitor parking rates, we surveyed 0.05 to 0.06 spaces per unit for visitors. We're at 0.1, so we're actually exceeding the visitor parking of what we saw was the actual real surveyed demand in those developments. So we are quite confident that we won't see a parking issue from this development, and that's why it's been brought for you today as it's proposed.
Great. And I probably know the answer to this, but it was a brand new fear brought to my attention today. Studentification. What would prevent students from trying to sublet one of these?
Sure, thank you, and through the mayor. I would imagine that the housing providers who work very hard to find housing for members in the community who need it would not be quick to sublet those units out to students. If there are students with real housing need, I would imagine they would be eligible. But no, this is not a student housing building. It's very purposeful to address a real need in the community.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Hazard-Thiel.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you for doing such great research on the traffic needs and the car needs. It's all really helpful data. Is there any thought or discussion about car share? So, individuals, lots of places don't need a car most of the time, but they do periodically need a car. So has there been any discussion with the partners that are involved on potentially if there was going to be an over demand for cars to implement car share?
Thank you for the question. It's a good question, and through the mayor. Yes, we have discussed car share with the ownership group. It's something that I think will be explored a lot further through the site plan process to follow. We have purposely over-provided visitor parking for this development. So there's definitely the opportunity for some of those visitor parking spaces to provide for a car share vehicle that could be used by any of the community at large ultimately, but also the tenants. So absolutely, it's something that we would look into and we have discussed. I don't have a firm commitment at this stage. That tends to be finalized kind of when the building is more real, when the site plan and building permit stage, but absolutely we're looking at it.
Okay, thank you for that. The other question that I see that there was a environmental design from the Halton Police done on the site. Are there additional security needs required for the facility, and have they been factored in?
Thank you for the question. So yeah, following the last council meeting, I believe Councillor Knoll actually brought up liaising with Halton Regional Police Service. So we did do that. We had a few meetings with them, and I believe Halton Regional Police also met with town staff regarding this development. Quite honestly, I think the conversation went quite well with Halton Regional Police. We've incorporated a number of the elements that they were looking to see, including glazing at the ground level, lighting, adequate lighting around the site, the things that really just prevent dark corners, areas that aren't visible to people. Halton Police also mentioned that they liked that we were integrating with the trail system, the way we had positioned the building to address the street. So I think we're quite confident that we've implemented the recommendations of Halton Regional Police, and I believe a lot of those matters are more like detailed site plan matters when you get into site lighting and those specifics, so we'll continue to do so through the site plan process.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll.
I'm going to take my hand down. Councillor Hazathiel asked my question. Thank you for asking the question. That's what I wanted to follow up on.
All questions are good. Thank you. Councillor Chisholm.
Yes, just a quick question with respect to disabled parking is one thing, but do we have is there any within the plans of a circular point where a wheelchair can get out of their van and roll into the front entrance rather than parking? Because sometimes I have a close friend who's quadriplegic, and it's almost impossible when they're parking to get through to get to the front door. So consideration to have a drop-off zone would be really, really good.
Thank you, and through the mayor, that's a great suggestion. We have looked at accessibility. Obviously, with 57 accessible units, it is important for this. I think we'll take that back through site plan to look at that specific scenario, but I would say that we have looked at ensuring that the drive aisle is wide enough that a vehicle could stop at the main entrance and vehicles could still pass by so they're not obstructing traffic. We also worked very hard to make sure that the building accommodates an accessible transit vehicle and turning around in the site so that those vehicles are not dropping off at the street, they can drop off in the site. So we have looked at that and we'll continue to do so through site plan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And thank you, sir, for the time you gave us.
Thank you, councillors.
Council, I need a mover and seconder for this. Are there volunteers? Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Knoll. And before Councillor Elgar asks, I'm going to call for a recorded vote. Mr. Clerk, would you, Councillor Grant? Yes, you may. All you need is to let me know. Okay. All right. You're up.
Thanks. I understand why many residents are uncomfortable with this proposal. It represents a meaningful change for the area, and I don't dismiss the concerns about traffic, parking, neighborhood character, environmental impacts, or the cumulative effect of growth along 6th Line. I live within walking distance of this proposal. I could probably stand to walk a bit more, but I understand them. I spent considerable time looking at the reports, the submissions, and technical analysis before coming to a decision, and including listening to people tonight. In the end, I conclude this application meets the plan test required of council. The site's on Ontario Road near transit, school, parks, commercial services, and Sheridan College. It's within a corridor already experiencing intensification. And 6 stories is significant, but I believe the location can support it, especially given the setbacks, landscaping, and other mitigation issues that will be dealt with at site plan. What weighed heavily in my decision is the nature of the proposal. It's not simply an apartment building As we've heard, the proposal is 190 affordable care rental units. I mean, it's deeply affordable units, accessible units, together with on-site childcare and support services. The project is developed in partnership with organizations that we all know and trust, including Home Sweet Hope, Community Living Oakville, Halton Women's Place, and others, who've worked very diligently with vulnerable residents and their families and within our community. During this process, though, one resident did approach me and warn about the kind of people who might live there. More than anything else I heard during this process, that comment clarified what concerns me most. It reminded me that affordable housing conversations can sometimes stop being about the buildings, the traffic setbacks, and policy, and become about assumptions regarding the worth or character of the people who may come to one they call a place home. I cannot support that way of thinking. The future residents of this building are not strangers to our community. They're people who've already lived here, seniors, struggling families, people with disabilities, women leaving unsafe positions. It's residents working to find a better place for themselves in our community. And Oakville has never become a stronger place by pushing people further away. So I believe there's value in creating this housing project into an integrated and stable community and not isolate them in some far-off place or high-density development. The building and the inclusion of the child care services and on-site support is going to help create a more stable environment and I believe enrich the surrounding community. That doesn't mean the surrounding resident concerns are invalid. They're not. The project moved forward. I will continue to push for strong attention to the parking management, traffic impacts, and all the rest, tree replacement, everything as we go through the site plan process. I know some may disagree with this position. I respect that, but after reviewing the full record, I believe that supporting this application is the responsible choice for the surrounding and broader community.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. I have to praise the eloquence with which you just spoke. You said my heart. I will have nothing extra to add. Thank you. Councillor Knoll, you're next.
Thank you, Worship. I also want to say ditto to everything that Councillor Grant said, except maybe he needs the walking thing. That's his own decision. A couple things I wanted to say. First of all, just from a general principle of the principle that a complete community makes room for everybody, and going from that, I want to thank everybody that spoke in favor of this proposal tonight. Like Councillor Grant, I represent the area, and I know that a number of our constituents are expressing concerns about that, and their concerns are certainly ones we've heard. I know there's been some mitigation to address some of those issues around crime prevention through environmental design and such, so we're very grateful for the fact that some of those issues were addressed. However, the reality is that in our society, a complete community makes room for everybody. We need to make the opportunity available for people who built this community to live in this community, to stay in this community. We need a place for our kids to be able to grow up and rent homes when they grow up and want to start their own lives. We need to be able to have communities that support people who are merely one or two life disasters away from homelessness or desperation. So based on all those principles and the fact that this is something that is desperately needed in Oakville, and not just this development, we need to duplicate this as much as we can across the board in small, manageable sized chunks so that people can assimilate in the community and benefit from the collective experience, the collective value of the neighborhoods that these homes are built in. The second thing I want to say is thank you, Blake Hampton Davies, for investing and putting your money where your mouth is and putting your money where your heart is, and showing that private investors and private industry and the free market can actually support supportive and affordable housing. This is a trend that has to happen in order for us to break the back of this problem across the country. It's not the problem of government alone. It is all of us collectively, nonprofits, the investors, everybody needs to take a piece of this and actually put their money where their heart is, their money where their mouth is. And Blake Hampton Davies, I salute you for doing this, and I am very much in favor of this proposal. I just wish I could have moved it. Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. I'm just kidding.
You could perhaps bargain.
A point of order, Your Worship. I could relinquish that to Councillor Knoll if it's really in his best interest. Thank you.
Your offer is accepted, and instead of seconding it, who's seconding it now? Councillor Grant. All right. Then, are there other speakers? And if not, may I ask Councillor Elgar?
Are we going to be able to ask our questions as staff, or are we already past that point? Like, I was waiting because you said I was first in the list, Mayor Burton. Did I miss something?
Councillor, I called you first for questions.
I sure didn't hear you. Hello?
Oh,
No, I'm sorry. I apologize, but before we get to the vote, I do have a few questions of staff. I'm sorry.
Councillor, go ahead.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So I'd like to say I first ran for council, was elected in 2000 to ensure that as Oakville grew, we would have what we know now as a natural heritage system across Oakville for Halton region, which was the first in Ontario at the time. When I read today that we have whittled away the natural heritage system, I need staff to tell me if we are doing a precedent-setting decision, and also if going forward, it's not about this particular one. I know it's minimal. However, I'm concerned that this will be a precedent-setting decision, and I want to know if going forward, we at the town can hire our own staff, because we all know it. The old saying is from years ago, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So when you get into environmental assessments, if the town going forward can do something about making sure that in fact we do the independent studies, because I really am concerned about that piper calls that, paper pays the money calls the tune. And this is probably just a small little widget. However, there's an awful lot of North Oakville that has not been developed yet. And we have to do this correctly for the residents and for the wildlife. Like, this is a huge issue. And I don't want to see a concrete jungle. And I honestly, I'm just hoping that going forward that we at town staff can hire the person, because I then know we have an independent ruling on what is environmental and what isn't. And I get a staff.
I'm going to ask staff to start by explaining the difference between the North Oakville Natural Heritage System and the Natural Heritage System that we subsequently created at the region with the, and Hasni actually mentioned it in her presentation, but perhaps she was too soft-spoken for you. The region's natural heritage system basically has a policy that says the boundaries of the natural heritage system are to be determined by the science on the ground when we get to that particular property. There was no detailed study of the boundaries when we created that. If we could turn to the staff now to flesh that out for you, I hope that'll be helpful to you.
Mayor Bird, maybe you missed my real point of what I was trying to say. What I'm trying to say, I know all of that information you're talking about, but what I really want to know is if we as staff, I trust staff 100% to hire an independent person to make sure what is ground truth, okay? I just don't like going forward that the developer hires the person. And maybe you missed the point about the piper who pays the money calls the tune. That is my biggest concern going forward across Oakville, the North Oakville.
All right, well then, I think that's a question for the director.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Charles.
Thank you, Mayor Burton, and through you to the councillor. The application as we received it included an environmental impact statement, and that was reviewed by our environmental planners. So we have environmental planners on our staff within our department, and that was reviewed by them, and they had concurred with the findings that were made in the EIS. For reference, when this site had originally been, for lack of a better term, mapped as part of the 1984 plan, the NHS did not go as far as 6 line. It actually went to about midway through the property, maybe a third of the way into the property. From there, the region had updated that mapping when the regional plan was updated. Because of conformity requirements, the town's mapping mimicked or copied what was done at the regional level. And that was then had to be reflected in our zoning. So to the mayor's point, the work had not been done to identify the entirety of the site as being within the NHS. It was what I will effectively call a mapping error at the time. So that was clarified through the on-the-ground work that was done in the EIS, and again, we have reviewed that and we're comfortable with the findings.
So going forward, Director Charles, is it possible that we could hire our own external consultant to assist our staff instead of using the developer's environmental person? Is that a possibility going forward for North Oakville?
Through Mayor Burton, we always have the option, Councillor, of getting additional assistance and expertise if it goes beyond the scope of what staff's capacity is, or if it's just simply there's a workload issue. So we do have the ability to do that, and we have done that in the past. We are currently working through our OP review program, as Council is aware. One of the things that we do have to do is some more ground truthing on the NHS as well, and that's for both North and South. And that's looking at what was done at the regional level, what's done at the local level, noting, of course, that with the Northeast Secondary Plan, what was done through the work through Noxus, through the North Oakville Creek Watershed Study, that was taken and ingrained right into the regional official plan. And that continues to be a cornerstone of the NHS system within the region. So we will be going through a little bit more work over the next few months to have that available for Council's review.
Director, I truly appreciate what you're doing, because I do trust. I've never seen a staff report where they've done it where there's been anything I ever questioned. So if we could do that, I truly appreciate it. Now, the other, just for clarification on when I mentioned the $2,379, Mayor Burton, it was the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit, this called the COHB, which came up and said that's the program ceiling reference point. It's not a legal cap though. So just for that 2,379 from the province, it's called COHB. Anyway, it's really interesting. And I've learned a lot tonight about everybody's using the term, but nobody knows what the number is. And I know we have a housing issue. This is, my whole night tonight was not about that whole issue. I agree with everybody what they said. And my concern was basically the fact that it was NHS. And just one question. The picture we saw tonight of the whole property treed, can we get confirmation that that was a bit of an old picture perhaps?
Councillor,
Has anybody been able to do that and confirm?
Yes, Councillor Hasney gave that confirmation.
And
Would you
so
like me
there's
to do it again?
I missed. I'm sorry. I heard about that. It certainly was a lot more than 51 trees on that picture.
Hasney, could you repeat your reassurance to the councillor that the picture's not accurate?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, the picture that we saw on the screen earlier is not accurate. There has been trees removed on the site.
Would you say most of them? If there's only 51 left, there was a few hundred trees on that property based on the picture everyone that watched the council meeting tonight would have seen. Is that correct?
That is correct. Most of them that are not located within the NHS and the NHS would not be, any trees will be removed from the NHS.
I thank you. I thank you very much for the information. I'm sure everybody's sick of me talking, so I'll shut up and vote. Thank you.
Councillor, thank you for your contribution tonight. Seeing no other hands, I'm going to once again bravely ask the clerk to call the recorded vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor O'Meara?
Yes.
Councillor McNeice? Councillor McNeice? Oh.
Yes.
Kids pick up everything.
Councillor Duddick?
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm?
Yes.
Councillor Howsett Thiel?
Yes.
Councillor Giddings?
Yes.
Councillor Elgar?
Yes.
Councillor Longo?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes.
Councillor Knoll?
Yes.
Councillor Grant?
Yes.
Councillor Adams?
Yes.
Councillor Nanda?
Yes.
Carries, Mayor.
Thank you, everybody. I now would turn our attention to item 8.2. 8.2 is a financial analysis that council has asked for on our interest in a community improvement plan. And I'm going to call on Sibel Von Korsel, the manager of Midtown Oakville and Special Programs, to provide a presentation. Pardon? Council, I'm hearing a request for a recess. You've sat for 3 hours, so that's very reasonable, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. I'm calling council back to order, and we're going to take up item 8.2, the financial analysis update of the community improvement plan idea. And I'd like to call on Sibel Von Korsel, the manager of Midtown Oakville and Special Programs, to provide a presentation and answer your questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's lovely to be here. I know it's been a long night, so I'll try to go through these slides relatively quickly and let you get home in a reasonable time.
I would ask you not to do that.
Okay.
This is fairly important, and I, for one, would benefit from being able to consider it carefully. So please don't worry about the hour.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. So I will go through starting with the staff recommendation, provide a brief background, give you a little bit of an overview of the preliminary financial analysis, some key findings, benefits of the recommended CIP program types, and then talk about next steps. So the recommendation for tonight is fairly simple. It's to receive the financial analysis and the report dated April 21st per the request of council. Just in terms of some background or of why we started talking about community improvement plans, you'll recall back in March of 2024, so 2 years ago, I presented to you the Planning Act tools to facilitate development of affordable housing, and in that at that meeting with council, we talked about various tools, including doing a community improvement plan, and the direction was to investigate that further and report back. And so in September of 2025, we did bring forward the housing needs assessment, which identified what are the housing needs of Oakville, as well as the community improvement plan background and options report. And at that meeting, council asked that we do a bit of a deeper dive on the financial analysis in terms of potential programs that we could bring forward for council's consideration. So after some considerable analysis that was done by our consultants, SHS, who are here in the audience, and we will also be able to answer your questions, and some meetings with our technical advisory committee, SHS updated that background and options report and included more information around the financial analysis to the extent that they can without necessarily delving into the nitty-gritty of what the community improvement plan program would actually be. And so here we are tonight to present that information to you for your consideration. So you'll recall from September of 2025, we presented to you the housing needs assessment, and we identified 4 key housing gaps, which are that we need more affordable housing, we need more rental housing, we need to diversify our housing stock, and we need to provide housing for priority households, like the group that we just heard from in item 8.1. And we identified that a community improvement plan could be used could be leveraged to create those, or to bridge that gap. We could use the community improvement plan to provide for more affordable housing, to incentivize purpose-built rental housing, as well as larger unit housing and additional residential units, and also to support the provision of suitable housing for priority households. And so we did a bit more of a deeper dive without necessarily getting into the nitty-gritty financial analysis. We did it at a higher level, and we looked at potentially 24 program types, and then tried to narrow that down so that we weren't, spending a lot of time and money and effort into doing the more detailed financial analysis. And so that's sort of identified in Appendix B of the report, the 24 options, and then using qualitative analysis to determine what would be a more appropriate consideration for the deeper dive financial. That deeper dive financial analysis is a starting point, and with the if the next step in terms of these CIP programs is to develop the program types, which would get into some much more details around what would be the financial commitment of the town, what would be the eligibility requirements for someone who's seeking to benefit from the CIP, how long would this CIP plan be in place, what would be the funding source. So those are all questions that we will not be answering tonight, but it would be part of developing an actual CIP program. But what we did find was some types of programs that we think would have legs and could address some of those housing gaps I mentioned. So in the report that was prepared by SHS, and along with the information that's provided in the staff report, there are some findings that I think are quite interesting and very kind of timely at right now. And so one of the key things that we found was that the resale values for housing has gone down since the peak of 2022. So housing prices are coming down. So I guess that means some of those programs that we have in place that the province and federal government is beginning to seek, achieving some of those goals. We are also seeing that housing vacancy rates have increased. We actually are over 3%, which hasn't happened in decades. We also have learned that the CMHC purpose-built rental housing programs are necessary for rental housing construction. There is not a way of moving forward with a rental housing project that wouldn't benefit from this CMHC programs. We've learned that most new rental housing would be affordable to moderate income Oakville households. And I do have a slide in the appendix of the report that talks about that moderate income in case you want to be reminded of it, who that is. But that's within the 40th and 60th percentile group. And we've also found that the creation of additional residential units is facilitated by the CMHC, the building code, and the availability of construction tradespeople right now. On the other side, we've learned that the proportion of financial assistance that is needed to support rental housing becomes significantly higher as buildings increase in size and units. That the proportion of financial assistance needed to support rental housing is much higher for the concrete construction versus wood construction buildings. And we found that the upfront capital grants in the order of 20 to 40% of the project costs are needed to support new purpose-built rental housing, even with the CMHC loans and the town fee and development charge exemptions, deferrals, and discounts. So the bottom line is purpose-built rental housing is tough to build. So kudos to the proponents that we heard from today that they were able to make it work. And what we would like to do through CIP is assist others in being able to do the same. So through that financial analysis that was done by the consultants, we did narrow down program types. So one of the program types we would like to develop a plan for is for additional residential units. And this would be an incentive that's geared to homeowners, and it would be through a capital grant. And if we were able to create more additional residential units, though it would address the 4 gaps that we've identified as the housing gaps that we have in Oakville. We also would like to develop a CIP program that's geared to not-for-profit affordable rental. And this would be to those non-for-profit organizations that would be managing the units. And what we're proposing is a forgivable loan. And we really want to leverage and you've probably seen it, that a similar program is being proposed at a larger scale. But the idea is if there are developments that are close to being able to get the pre-construction purchases, but maybe haven't got enough to get the 70 or 80% to be able to get the mortgages to be able to build those units. If we can help a non-for-profit purchase some of those units, then the development will become viable and they can move forward. And we also secure units for those not-for-profit organizations. So it's helping them to help the larger developers while also providing affordable units. Alternatively, it could be that we can help those non-for-profits purchase units that are already, like resale units, that are sitting vacant right now. So that's the idea, and with that in place, they would buy several units within a building and be able to provide them for those priority households. And it could be fairly quickly, especially if they're doing resale units. And then the third program is geared for purpose-built rental. And this will be to developers who are interested in doing purpose-built rental. And we do see right now there is an interest moving away from the condominium to purpose-built rental. And this would be assisting them as well. And that would be through a tax increment equivalent grant. So that would be post-construction, and it would be based on a reduction in the property taxes that they would be required to pay once the building is occupied. So when we looked at if you recall, back in 2025, in September, we identified a list of criteria in terms of how these programs would be evaluated. And so this table basically is just the quick list of what are those criteria and how do these three different programs meet those criteria. And as you'll see, all three of those programs would address the housing gaps that are identified. We have some preliminary costing associated with these programs. So you'll see the additional residential units, it could be anywhere between $10,000 to $55,000. $10,000 to $55,000 for each additional residential unit that's constructed. In terms of the non-for-profit affordable housing, we're looking at about these forgivable loans for about 20% of the cost of the unit to assist the non-for-profits in being able to purchase those units. And in terms of the purpose-built rental tax increment equivalent grant, it would be a percentage of that annual property tax, but we haven't landed on that. And in the report, you'll see that what actually is needed and what we could potentially provide is not necessarily lining up, because what they actually need is more than what the property tax would be that they would be paying. But perhaps when we use these programs and we stack them with other programs, this would assist in getting those new purpose-built rental units in place. In all three cases, these programs can be stackable with other programs that are being offered by the town, province, and the region and federal governments. We think that they all, from an administrative perspective, can be done fairly simply and straightforward. The total financial viability, both for the town and the proponent, is still something we're going to need to do further dive into. But at a preliminary level, we think, again, these three programs have legs. And then they can be implemented anywhere in the town. So obviously, with the additional residential units, it's wherever we provide for grant-oriented housing. The non-for-profit affordable can happen anywhere in the town, and then the purpose-built rental would be geared to multi-residential apartment buildings, so wherever those are permitted, the CIP could apply. So in terms of next steps, what we'd like to do is, again, develop the program, start to establish what are the goals and objectives of the plan, what are the eligibility requirements, the funding amount caps, the program and plan duration, and some of the administrative aspects of developing the plan, and then go out and consult on the proposed or the draft plan. We would have a statutory public meeting about it. We would host focus group meetings to just make sure that we're hitting that sweet spot in terms of what is a potential maximum grant that could be provided. And then we would finalize the CIP and bring it back to council for approval. And we think that by providing a CIP that supports affordable housing, you are going to get spin-off benefits, including that the social impact that it has, but when you house people in a form that is appropriate for their needs. It is also helps with an investment in traction, because employers are looking to make sure that if they invest in their business, that the people that work for them are going to be able to live close to home. So it's also a way of investment and attraction, as well as that social impact that we're looking for. And I believe that's the end of my presentation, and I welcome any questions.
Well, you have some, and we'll start with Councillor Elgar.
Mayor Burton, through you, I'd like to thank staff for this report, because I think when it came before us before, I think it just kind of went right through. Everybody was good with it. And this time I really looked into it, because of course, when I'm starting to really dig into this affordable housing thing. But I guess when I look at it, I'm thinking, as I dug into this, I dug into it a little bit deeper, and I'm only going to go through a few questions tonight, but I had about 20 pages of written stuff here, but when I look at it, this is what the region and the province, in my mind, were responsible for. So here we are as a little local town taking on the responsibilities. It's like downloading, in my opinion, of what we are trying to do for the good of the community, and I agree with you. The basement unit suites, 10 to 55,000. When you read that, from what I'm reading, that is everywhere throughout all of Oakville. Now think about it, how that would work if everybody in the street put in a $55,000 basement unit, and the people move in, and you've got cars parked, lawns, I don't know where all they'd park, their infrastructure, there's all kinds of issues I have. So I scribbled down just a few of them here. Now the real thing is when the music stops, if the funding stops, is the town liable? Because I got to tell you, that's what nothing is guaranteed anymore with the federal government, CMHC, or anything. And I just wonder, where is the town on that? And then you start reading about the giveaways, the TIEGS, the tax incremental equivalent grants. Oh, and then you got the DC exemptions. Then you got the parkland reductions. Okay, so who's picking up the cost? I'm elected to represent the constituents of Oakville, and I'm thinking it could be on them. So if the CIP, if it collapses, who's on the hook? What's the definition? Okay, I'm going to come back. What's the definition of affordable? I'm not sure. I'd love to know, what is the maximum annual and total exposure the town could be exposed to? And I heard you say that you don't have that yet, and I appreciate that. And then the CMHC and the federal funding changes. I don't know whether this is ready for prime time. I do think, I'm only one, but I'm wondering whether we should kind of refer this back and at least have a workshop or something with all counselors so we understand it better. Because when I went through the report, and it was one of the best, excellent report you wrote, but it sure opened up gaping holes. And I don't know whether you agree, but to me, the holes are huge, and the impact on the current taxpayers or future taxpayers of Oakville could be huge, because there's nowhere where I know what this real exposure could be doing this, especially since it should be the province, and and it should be the region. So that's my rant at this time of night. I realize it's late for everybody. You probably don't want to hear me talk, but anyway, so you can answer later or get back to me, but I really feel this should go back for a little more work. So we understand as all councillors, it's a good time, it's election year, to see where we stand on things like this. So I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
I don't know if you can answer the questions or not.
Thank you, Councillor, for your contribution. Councillor McNeese.
Thank you, through your worship. Trying to be a little more positive than Councillor Elgar there. I think this is great work, and I think many municipalities are doing work like this already with the ARUs, additional residential units. I believe I've seen this already happening in Burlington. Is that correct? Among a number of other ones, but here in Halton. Do you know if Burlington is doing a subsidy or rebate for ADUs or ARUs?
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have seen that. And then on the not-for-profit affordable rental, I mean, we just saw a presentation on it. Seemed like we're all in favor of it. I think there's a role that a municipality can play if we're going to get serious about affordable housing. I guess my question related to that is, could that project benefit from this? I mean, maybe the timing is off, but is that conceivable that a project like this, or that was previously talked about, could benefit from the not-for-profit affordable rental category that you've outlined?
The project we just approved has told us that they have all that they need. So
okay, but conceivably going forward, I guess it could encourage more projects like that.
Undoubtedly.
Okay, great. And then the only one, I just have a few questions on the purpose-built rental. I mean, my understanding is that's predominantly what's being built right now, as opposed to condominiums. That CMHC and the federal government got heavily involved about 15 or 20 years ago to boost up that sector. Is there a feeling that the purpose-built, and I take it that's market rates as well? Could you confirm that?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Maybe just to staff, is that sort of the highest need category? Because to me, it seems like there are actually now a lot being built. And my understanding is that it's largely to do to the loan guarantees through the CMHC. I'm just curious if a little bit of a tax advantage is really what's holding them back, or does it seem like we're starting to see an abundance?
Well, Councillor, before Sibel answers, I'll remind you that you have active applications from a corporation for, I've lost track of the number of towers of purpose-built rental on South Service Road in Midtown.
Yeah, I mean, we have some being built in our community right now. That's all that's being built really is the purpose-built rentals. So seems to be what the feds have done is working.
Janet, could I just ask Janet, is it 14 towers now there?
It's 14. The first 2 or 3 that they're going to put in for sure would be purpose-built rental, and then after there's a reassessment of that.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
And the only critique I hear of those is they're exempt from any kind of rent control since I think 2008 or so. So I imagine there isn't anything conceivably that a municipality could do about that. Is that correct?
All I know is that they've indicated that they're going to be going to CMHC. And as I understood it, CMHC has a requirement for a percentage of the units to be at the affordable level specified by CMHC.
Okay, and that's the Midtown project you're talking about, right?
That's the 14 tower
14,
project
yeah.
that I'm talking about.
Okay. Okay. So overall, my feedback, I think this is great. Category 1 with ARU makes a lot of sense to me. The not-for-profit affordable rental makes sense to me. Only questions I have is around the purpose-built rental, if there is actually need for the municipality to intervene. We're seeing so many applications right now, and it seems like demand is being fulfilled. So thanks again for the presentation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering if you can tell me, since the province mandated 3 units as of right, how many ARUs have been issued or where we're at with ARUs?
Through you, Mayor, I don't actually have the number, but what we have noticed though is there's been a decline in the ARU applications. And there was some speculation that might have been due to some changes to the building code. But we are seeing that for existing residential, there's the building code requirements are not as challenging. So there's an opportunity for some of those existing houses to be able to create the ARU. And this kind of an incentive would assist with maybe if someone's on the not quite sure they want to make that investment with this, that might be the edge that they need to make that decision to do so.
Okay, because I seem to remember a conversation around this council table a couple of years ago when we were talking about 4 units as of right, and we were talking about, well, we already have 3 units as of right, so it's not going to make much of a difference. And at that point, it was almost non-existent in the town. But at that point, we were being offered by the federal government many millions of dollars to go ahead with programs to figure out how to do this. So what I'm reading from our financial comments here is that should council adopt an affordable housing community improvement plan to bring more of this up, there would be financial implications related to the program as well as its administration. Have we not already made this decision when we turned down the 4 units as of right? And the federal government was willing to pay for the administration and do a lot of this background work that we said no to? Is it like what? Are we redoing a decision that we kind of already made a couple of years ago in terms of trying to facilitate how we get ARUs built and how we do these types of things?
Through you, Mayor. So this CIP, it would still be under the permission for the 3 units. We're not talking about a 4th unit. We're just helping someone to make that investment to do that conversion and create the unit.
Sure. So I guess my question really is we didn't, when we had this discussion on 3 units a few years ago, we didn't have any uptake. We're having this discussion on 3 units because we still don't have any uptake. And now we're going to throw town resources at this or taxpayer resources at this to try and get 3-unit uptake. But we seem to have turned down federal money to try and do some sort of uptake here. So now the taxpayers of Oakville are going to be taking the ball on this to try and front encouraging people to get extra units because it hasn't worked. Nothing that we've done has really had extra units. So I'm wondering what is the cost going to be with the program? And I know you say if we decide to move ahead, there's going to be costs, but do you know what those costs are going to be, or is there a scale or a scope of what we're looking at?
So through you, Mayor, when we developed the actual CIP program with eligibility requirements and the duration and things like that, we would also establish a maximum cap on what the grant would be on a per unit basis, but we can also establish a cap on what the grant would be on an annual basis. So if council said, we're willing to set aside X amount of dollars to implement the community improvement plan, go ahead and approve applications so long as you don't exceed that cap. So we would always have an overall cap on how much we could spend annually. If we didn't spend that annual amount, we could bring it over, move it up to the following year and then add to it so that we're always setting aside those dollars to support the provision of affordable housing.
And just to be clear, that money comes from our tax base, or does it come from development? Where's that money coming from?
So there are a number of funding sources. Tax base is probably the simplest source. There are government grants. They're not as lucrative as what we might have had through other programs. As well, we can have a specific levy. So there's a different options. Our CBC charge could also be used to support it. So those are pieces that we'll need to further investigate once we've done a better job of designing the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you for the report. I'm curious how this program integrates with the regional housing strategy and how the subsidies that they are and the investment they're making, which we end up contributing 43% of every dollar towards. How do you see this integrating with that strategy, which is $196 million over the next 10 years?
Through you, Mayor. The households that we would be focusing on are those moderate households. So the regional programs are geared to low-income housing, so 40th and below. We would be gearing to that 40th to 60th percentile. And so when we are able to provide housing for that income group, it takes pressure off the region, the lower income, that household group relying on what's meant for the lower income households. And it also is filling the gap that we're not getting through just your regular market housing. So that's where this CIP program is filling a gap in terms of our overall housing need, but also in terms of a gap between what we can hope to get through our market housing and what we can get through the regional housing service manager.
Okay, so thank you for a little bit more clarity on that. What is the moderate income? I mean, we're talking 40th to 60th.
Yeah.
Can you give me the number?
In terms of?
What is the income level that this type of housing would be applicable to?
So this would be households ranging between $60,000 and $150,000.
Okay. So are we aiming to is it really a program for the missing middle?
It's a program for middle-income families or households.
Okay. But we in the criteria and the assessment, to be clear, we are not trying to duplicate or mirror the priority housing that the region takes the leadership role on.
Through you, Mayor, correct. We're trying to fill a gap.
Okay. So in terms of understanding what they spend or what they contribute, so to create housing. So they're about to create, over the next 10 years, 450 new homes. Some will be supportive, some won't. And then within that scope, they're also trying to get 1,350 new assisted. Do we have any analysis about what the cost per unit is when they go to do that work so that we can benchmark a potential program we're going to have?
I think each through you, Mayor, each project is going to be different. The circumstances are different. It's not going to be an apples to apples process. So we would develop a program, consult with the community on are these incentives sufficient to assist in achieving our goals, and then those who are eligible will do their own pro forma work to determine if that grant's going to help them to be able to deliver on the type of housing that we're asking them to provide. But some of the work that we're finding through that original analysis was the most successful are probably going to be our low and mid-rise wood construction, smaller buildings. That's probably where we'll see the best, what's the word? Link like where our needs and their needs can be satisfied.
Okay. So I'm just going to build a little bit off what Councillor McNeese was asking about when he said, is Burlington doing this? Do we know what the other towns in the Halton region are doing in regards to this? Do we have their specific programs? And do we know how many homes that it has generated at what cost? I saw Ottawa in the report. I saw a couple others, but I wasn't clear if we had Halton region comparables.
Yeah, actually, I thought I have it in my report. I'm just not putting my finger on it. All 3 municipalities have a CIP program. The Burlington one is brand new, so I don't believe that they've yet issued any program like successful applicants. And in the Planning Act tools to facilitate affordable housing, there is examples of many municipalities that are doing these programs. A lot of them are fairly new, so their success rate is difficult to determine. But I do know that the funding is being granted. There is uptake in these programs. And we do know we're in a bit of a challenging time. And so what's interesting about these 3 programs is that they are programs that can actually bring in new units in a very short period of time. They don't require multiple years in terms of going through a planning process to be able, and then construction to actually yield units.
Okay. If we, when we get the next steps, if we could include Burlington and Halton Hills and Milton in the analysis, that'd be great. And if we know what the uptake is, that would be even better. I'm curious if you've had a conversation with Rose Corp on their pro forma and how their pro forma works for purpose-built rental.
Through you, Mayor, yes, we have spoken with them, and we've discussed, all the different ways in which we can assist with, any kind of rental development. And, clearly their assistance is needed, is what we've learned through that process.
Okay. I would like to agree with Councillor Algar that I think a workshop on this is probably a better format when we get to a full program that you want us to dive deep into. The programs, what you've have in the report is excellent. There's an incredible amount of detail to absorb. We're not all professors. And having it in a workshop format might allow us to sort of work through some of the numbers more, because understanding what, we don't even see in this report what the hit on the taxpayer could be and the cap of that. And I know that's to be determined, but that's where the rubber hits the road. And so understanding that more and having a more, an opportunity to dig into it a little more, I certainly would appreciate.
Thank you, Councillor. Council, we have another item after this, and I can see that there's some extensive interest in this topic. I would like a motion to proceed past the hour.
I don't want to go past the hour tonight.
Councillor Knoll and Councillor Adams, thank you. Is there any objection? It's close, but it carries. I would like to tell council that I've been listening to the comments, and Clerk and I are about to circulate to you a replacement motion that builds on the receive the report. And I've tried to capture the need for workshop. I think 2 is rather than 1, as you'll see when you get it. And then I think we also need a report on possible roles for the Halton housing services manager in any CIP. And given that our sister cities at the lower tier of Halton have them as well, there's an opportunity for us to collaborate and cooperate across our local borders. And even an argument for the Halton Housing Services Manager to participate in the name of efficiency, so that we don't do three version, wherever we can save having a triple resource by having one. And it's about to go, and in the meantime, we can add to that if more ideas come up. Councillor Adams.
Thanks. I support the draft that you've just put forward. I would suggest that we maybe add, as part of 2, perhaps it's simply an understanding, that we ask staff to provide detailed information about the total cost, the cost per unit, the funding sources, and the caps of funding for programs as part of that discussion specifically. Because I think that's something that a number of us have now asked about. And it's a point of concern, I think.
Right. And the purpose of the way I drafted it is 2 workshops was for input before there's a draft CIP, and then only when there is a draft CIP would I expect to have those kinds of numbers. So if you want to add something, I would, I think it's gilding the lily maybe, but I would add that the draft CIP includes the full costing recommendations. Because basically what Sibel just told us was pick your number and that can be your number. So the first workshop is an opportunity to explore our appetite. The second workshop is to then see a draft that has all of that reflected. So it's a little by little evolution to a draft CIP. I'm guided by the fact that the CIP was a unanimously encouraged development during the last 3 years here. And so I assume that we all still maintain a theoretical, at least, interest in the topic, because we were certainly very keen for it when we were driving staff down this road.
Yes, I think it looks like a delicious chocolate cake, but we might not want to have to walk the 58,000 kilometers to work it off.
Well, before we bake the cake, let's talk about the ingredients at the preliminary workshop, and maybe specify our appetite, and then we won't have too far to walk.
And now we all want delicious chocolate cake.
All right. But anyway, what I'm suggesting is a little by little approach rather than a kaboom.
Yes.
All right.
So I agree with those who have spoken before about the issues around not knowing what the total cost is, and I appreciate we don't get to know what the total cost is until we actually kind of draft a plan. So we have that issue, but we also don't really have information about what the cost per real new unit is. If we create an incentive plan, does it really create a new unit, or is that a unit that would have been built anyway?
Let's just, I think we can agree to add to the end of number 2 with costing.
Yes. And I would be okay with that generalization of using a single word to try and capture all of these issues.
All right, so so there you go. Now we have speakers, and we've got all night. Councillor Elgar.
I think was I not on the?
Yes, you're on the floor. I took you to be done, but
oh, okay.
Carry on.
So I just want to say, I think in some ways it's very similar to some other programs. I think of the Heritage Grant Program, where we have a specific amount of money that we put in each year. People apply for it under the basis of the application process. Sometimes we have an oversubscription. Maybe in other years we maybe didn't give away all the money, and so it goes into the pool for the next year, that kind of thing. Similarly, I could imagine this being the case where we might have funding sources, and I would hope that it's not just property taxes. I'm hoping that there are other sources that would be the prime sources of funding, not property taxes. And we would have to have some kind of cap and maybe a process by which an applicant would get in line for an incentive payment, and only until they got to the top of the list would they actually get to achieve that. So there's a bunch of things that I think need to be talked about, and I do worry that our appetite is bigger than our willingness to actually pay for it.
Well, let's hope our eyes are not bigger than our stomach. Thank you, Councillor, and Councillor Elger.
Mayor Burton, I just want to say thank you very much. I like where we're going. I must say this report really was a great report, but it really when I started digging into it, especially with what affordable housing is and who might be on the hook, I think we owe it to our people paying the taxes in Oakville. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, and we should all thank Councillor Adams for reminding us of the Heritage Grant, and because, you know, it sounds pretty similar. Councillor Hazard-Thiel.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. So I'm happy that we've got this in front of us, and it's going to add in with costing. Just for some perspective, 43% of the 196 million from the region, Oakville will already be contributing $84 million towards the priority affordable housing. And so where I was going was, and maybe number 4 gets there, it's not just the possible roles, but, you know, how do we collaborate together, and how do you leverage their experience? So, for example, I've heard concerns about the cost per unit in some of the affordable housing that the Halton Region's provided, but some of that is supportive housing, which has different physical needs. But there's a richness of experience there, and Burton, if you think that the report on possible roles for the Halton Housing Services Managers and the CIP will get us that level of detail, I'm really looking for also the magnitude of the overall investment. So not just thinking about Oakville, but, you know, we are contributing to the Halton budget.
Right. If there's a beauty to this, the beauty is the 2-stage workshopping where we get to volunteer what our appetite is, and then, because basically what I think we're looking at is an allowance, just like Halton is. I mean, Halton is basically, that's an allowance. And, you know, that's the spending envelope. So maybe instead of an allowance, I'll call it an envelope. So at our first workshop, we'll be able to help staff figure out what our appetite for an envelope is on this.
So, but thank you for clarifying that. So then, do you mean in number 2 that they're going to do a public workshop for the public first, or do you mean they're going to do we're going to do a council workshop followed by a public workshop, even though we know people can watch us in a workshop?
So public workshops, 2 public workshops for the public and council. We're able to exclude the public, but we're not required to.
Right.
And so and that's why I specify that it's for the public and council input for a draft CIP, and then for consideration of an eventual draft CIP. So there's an extra meeting on top of the normal number of meetings for the draft CIP.
Okay, so one last piece of clarification. Is it going to be council's input and then take it out to the public, or is it going to be public input and then come back to council?
Council and public together each time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So that we're all working together in the Oakville spirit, can I say. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. This might be a premature question, but if I'm looking at the program, and I think it's an excellent work that you've done, but there's a lot of moving parts with the financial end of it and how this is going to come out of the wash at the end. Is it safe to say if we don't have any partners or any grants or anything else coming in, and it's solely on the tax base, is this doable?
Councillor, that depends on how big an envelope that we decide to use. And the plan we're laid out here that I think we agree on is to little by little derive that number. So we're not committing to spending anything. We're not even committing to adopting a CIP.
I hear you, but we're going to put together a draft of the financials in the next report. Then the bottom line is always about money. With all due respect, that's where it's going to go.
Right.
Correct?
So in the one public and council workshop, we we explore what people's appetite is for how big of an envelope we want to have. Then the staff go away and they bring back a draft CIP and they spell out everything, including the cost of the envelope that we said we wanted, et cetera.
Okay.
And even then, we still can cut bait.
Okay, got it.
So we're going to explore together this topic and see how far we go. All right. Can we get a mover and seconder for this? Councillor Adams and Councillor Elgar, I saw hands. Any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being none, that's carried. Council, I'd like to invite your attention to item 8.3, and I'd like to make a suggestion in respect of the desire of some of us not to stay all night. I would suggest that we just vote to receive this report and that let's communicate afterwards, and if there's a need for a council session on any of it, I certainly can call that or include it in a future meeting of council. And if you like that idea, somebody move receipt. Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Mayor Burton, while I was one of the ones who put up my hand that I really am kind of tired tonight, I do think that presentation's important. I don't know how long it is. The magnitude of these changes is far-reaching. I would appreciate their insights if they're prepared to give us the presentation.
So the presentation merely summarizes the reports that they've given us. And so if I think about our past behavior in the face of these things, our questions tend to, what can we do? And it may be that, and they may not be prepared for that because all they prepared was to tell you what's in them. So that's why I was suggesting that you might want to proceed as I suggested. But I mean, it's in council's hands. Councillor Haslett-Thiel, can I move on to the next councillor?
Sure.
Councillor Adams?
Thank you. I'll give you a motion to move the staff recommendation, which is to not just receive it, but to submit the comments to the ERO postings respectively, and to circulate the report to the various organizations and individuals.
Can I get a second?
I'd second that.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Is there discussion of the motion? Is there any objection to the motion? Mr. Clerk, there's no objection. It carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Are there any requests for reports? Seeing none. How about a mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws?
Sorry, Your Worship, we skipped new business, if you don't mind.
Is there any new business?
I just have a note of congratulations. I had the, if you don't mind, I had the privilege of attending the Tempest Choral Society's biannual concert on the weekend, and a former teacher of mine 35 years ago, Brian Turnbull, who is the music director, is retiring after 27 years of leading the Choral Society, and it is a great gift that he gave to this community of music, and it will be well missed. And we would like to welcome Cristobal Pinto, who will be taking over the musical director role of the Tempest Choral Society, and we want to wish her all the best. And we and Bronny have had them sing at our tree lighting for the past few years, and they have been spectacular. And we just wish Mr. Turnbull, as I know him fondly, the best in his next chapter of life. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Wendy and I enjoyed the evening performance, and because he told a funny joke that was clean, and he complained about how hard it is to come up with a clean joke. I thought that was funny. When he was your teacher, did he tell jokes in class?
No, no, not to a bunch of a grade 7-year-old. But did he tell you the milk joke? Was that it? Yes, well, it's the same one, but no, he will be fondly regarded, so thank you.
A few times, I guess. All right, thank you. So I have a motion for consideration and reading of the bylaws.
Oh, you got 2 more.
There's a couple with their hands up still.
You're lining up.
I beg your pardons. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you. I just want to ask what the milk joke was. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to remind everybody about Police Day and correct my error last week. I had everybody going to Police Day on Mother's Day, so it's not on Mother's Day. So mothers, relax. It's the Police Day will be held on Saturday, May 9th at Police Headquarters on North Service Road. It's going to be a great fun day of exhibits and activities for everybody of all ages, and I hope that you will join us. It takes place from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. It's some free family fun and get to learn more about your Halton Police Service and the wonderful work that they do for residents of our community.
Well, thank you. It's good to know that the police remembered their mothers. Councillor Chisholm?
I have an announcement. Visit Oakville has awarded the conference to be in Oakville. The Ontario BIA's conference will be at the Brownie Conference Center, April 25th through to April 28th of 27. So that's exciting for the town of Oakville to host this. So congratulations to Rebecca Edgar and her staff and to the board. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of them. Thank you for that good news. So I still have a motion for consideration and reading of the bylaws. Mr. Clerk, you caught the mover and seconder already. And is there any objection? Mr. Clerk, the good news is there's no objection. The bylaws are considered read and passed. And that completes the work of this evening. Thank you, everybody. It's been terrific working with you, and I'm looking forward to the next chance to do it. Good night.